John McKay, who is sitting right here, is on Zoom. And then Alan McDonald is not with us, but may join by Zoom, and will announce as
We're thankful for the moisture we have received and ask you to continue to bless us with moisture. And we ask you that we may be able to take the concerns of our citizens and help us to find the best answers for our city. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. Wow. Well, we'll wait for Alan to get up here. Thanks, Alan. Well, I went ahead and just did it, so you know. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For great surprise to have Alan here with us. Okay, the first point on the agenda is public comment, as is the same in all of our meetings, both city council and planning commission. There's time set aside for you to bring forward any item that's not on the agenda. If the item that you're interested in making a comment on is already on the agenda, then you could do it at that time. Just to clarify, if it doesn't say public hearing next to your item, then I won't know if you have something that you need to add on that item. I'll give you a minute when we get to that point, if it's on the agenda, but there's not a public hearing. So does anyone have anything they wanted to bring forward? Okay. All right, then we'll move on from the public comment into reports and presentations, which it sounds like we have none. Unless there's been something updated from that time. Okay, so we're going to move right into our first action item, which is a public hearing. It's concept preliminary for the Smooth Canyon Subdivision Phase 2. So to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to allow the city planner and the city engineer to present information to educate us on what we have in our packets, what we need to know. And then after that, we'll move into the public hearing, and I'll give some directions on that at that time. And then we'll have our planning commission discuss. So.
Okay, so this is, let's see, on this here. So the Smooth Canyon Subdivision Phase 2. This is located in the southeast corner of Alpine. I'm just going to go to the next slide here to so you can get to see what the proposed concept looks like here. This is located in the city's CR 20,000 zone. The total acreage of this project is 10.95 acres. There are 19 lots being proposed, ranging in size from 0.46 acres to 0.55 acres. Tonight we will be looking at, this is really the concept and the preliminary plans that we're looking at tonight. So just a little bit of background here. This subdivision is the second phase of Smooth Canyon. So Smooth Canyon is to the north. For those that are familiar with that, that's where we have a lot of our soccer parks, and it's that subdivision that's around that area. And so this is the second phase. That the previous subdivision was built approximately 20 years ago. And so this subdivision is being built according to our zoning standards. So these lots, as I mentioned earlier, they do meet our zoning standards for as far as size is concerned. Each of these lots being shown here on the screen meets our lot width requirements. They are showing standard streets here, 54 feet in width. As far as our master plan is concerned, so we do show like an eventual trail connection in this area. And so it should be noted that this is really the west half of phase 2. There's actually an east piece that's going to remain undeveloped, which we would assume would be phase 3. And at that time, the developer has chosen to address that trail connection at that time. So we don't see any trail connections on here, but that's something that they'll look at the later phase. Also, as far as our general plan is concerned, we have the transportation master plan map. We do show on that plan a planned connection. So if we just scroll down here, you'll see Highland City is indicated on this just to the south. So this is actually the border between the two cities where the mouse is. And so that connection is shown on as a planned connection as part of the Alpine City Transportation Master Plan. You can see on here, because this is just phase 2 and there still is more to be done to the east, the north and the south roads here would be connected by what would be a 20-foot temporary lane. When phase 3 gets constructed, that would disappear and there would be another north-south connector street as proposed here by the developer. Let's see. I think that's about what I have from a planning and zoning standpoint. I think our Jed has more to add, so I'll pass it over to him.
Yep, so I think we're all here to talk about streets. So I have a lot to say about streets, so buckle up. So as Austin mentioned, the proposed development shows a street connection to Highland City, which does comply with our general plan. Our general plan map was updated in 2020 specifically by the city council to show these intermunicipal connections between Alpine and the Highland or the county or other areas. And so this is one of those connections. The connection would provide secondary access to meet fire code for the subdivision in the south. That subdivision to the south in Highland is named Viewpoint, just for reference. So it would provide secondary access for that development. It would provide cross access for both cities. It would be another means of access in case of emergencies. It could or would create a connection for the buses if the school district so chose to take their buses in there, which would be great. The road coming into Viewpoint off of SR 92 is currently too steep for the school buses to traverse. So they have a school bus stop at the bottom on SR 92. This connection could provide a way of access for them to come in from the top if they so chose to. Even in non-emergency situations, the access would be good for both cities, just for typical road maintenance or working on infrastructure or whatever. It just gives traffic another option or a way to go in case they need it. In terms of the general layout, our transportation master plan has adopted or specific guidelines on how to design roads, specifically the efficiency of them. And I'm going to just quote straight from our transportation master plan, couple sections. It says, design transportation facilities to assure efficient traffic flow throughout the city with compatible connections to regional transportation systems. It goes on to say that one way to minimize speeds on local streets is to provide direct routes to collector streets. And then it tells me that my job is to work with developers to provide efficient design in conformance with the standards set forth in the Alpine City Transportation Master Plan. Austin, could you show the Transportation Master Plan map? I believe it's in the packet there somewhere. I'll just keep talking while you're looking. On our Transportation Master Plan map, and it's the same as our Trail Master Plan map. When there's a new development that comes in, we typically have an A to B kind of connection through that property. Most of the time, the A to B connection is more or less just saying we need a connection from one side of the property to another. In this situation, the A to B connection, as you can see right here, is shown as a direct connection from High Bench Road to Park Drive in Highland. In this situation, that specific alignment would correlate exactly with our transportation master plan design guidelines in terms of intent of traffic circulation, speeds, efficient design, a connection to the nearest collector street, which in this case is Healy Boulevard. Our collector streets on this map are depicted in blue. Arterial is red, and just a typical local residential street is shown in green. So the proposed alignment that goes in a horseshoe design, can I draw on my
Yeah, you
screen?
can draw.
That's kind of a cool little,
Let me zoom in a little bit.
that's now my, yeah, I messed it up.
I'm just gonna like line it back up again.
Yeah, I'll put it back.
There you go. Now a little to the left.
Yeah, this is fun. This is the first time I've done this. It actually doesn't go quite that far. It goes more like that. The proposed alignment does this horseshoe design, which forces traffic to go through the neighborhood to get to their destination. The master plan specifically talks about designs like this, where that would encourage speeding because people don't have a direct route to where they need to go. And so besides the speeding issue, it's an efficient issue. And so we would recommend we change the design and go with a straight through connection. Besides the alignment of the road, the plans also show, sorry, we're gonna have to go back to the plans now to get rid of my mark on there. The plans show putting utilities in the alignment where we would like the road to be. They show them going from Park Drive in Highland to High Bench Road, and they show them going through private properties on easements on the private property. And we're almost there. So you can see there lots 2, 17, 18, and 207 and 208. They have an easement along the lot lines where these proposed utilities would go. Alpine City, we call these like side lot utility easements or side lot easements. We have a few of these around the city. We try to avoid them as much as possible because they're just hard for staff to keep track of, and they're hard for us to continually update homeowners that move in and out of the properties that there is an easement there and they can't do things like build sheds or pools or retaining walls. We just try to avoid this scenario as much as possible. And so besides the alignment issue of the road, we also have an issue with this utility easement, which we would propose be put into a road or some other form of right of way that we have better access to and control over. Our traffic master plan or transportation master plan recommends that we require a traffic study anytime a development generates more than 100 peak hour trips. This development would only generate 190 daily trips. So there's a big difference between daily and peak hour. But having said that, obviously this development is making a connection between two cities, which would open up, I'm not going to say the word floodgates because it's not floodgates, but it would open up a connection for Alpine and Highland to cross connect there. So having said that, that could be justification for the city to require a traffic impact study. We were going to, but then Highland actually beat us to it. So Highland, having learned of the proposed development, they went and commissioned a traffic impact study. And I wanted to share just some of the details that came forth from the traffic impact study. That study analyzed 4 different scenarios. It analyzed existing conditions, which is no connection at all. It analyzed the proposed alignment, which I'm calling this horseshoe alignment. It analyzed a straight through connection, and then it also analyzed a bypass connection, which comes off of High Bench Road and bypasses the development entirely and goes through the gravel pit to SR 92. It was interesting. The only scenario that was actually faster for traffic to get from Highland to the west side of, I say the west side of SR 92. I'm talking about the intersection of Canyon Crest and SR 92. So for people who are traveling in that direction, which is the majority of the traffic, according to the traffic study, the only scenario that is quicker for them to make that connection would be if a bypass road were built through the gravel pit. Even the straight through connection, which would be the next quickest option, was slower than it would be for traffic just to turn right on Healy Boulevard and go to Canyon Crest and go out.
Jed, just to clarify, you meant to go from Alpine to SR 92.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So talking in terms of numbers, with a straight through connection, actually, let me back up. The existing peak hour trips occur during the evening time in the Viewpoint neighborhood. And on Park Drive, that peak hour number is 143 trips. With a straight through connection, it would add 76 more trips to that peak hour number, bringing their total number to 219. For the horseshoe alignment, the numbers were slightly less. It would add 61 more peak hour trips. And then I actually didn't write the numbers down for the bypass connection because that didn't really matter. So yeah, in terms of impact to the Viewpoint neighborhood, you would go from, you do either 76 or 61 more peak hour trips. The other interesting thing to note is that the impact study noted that right now Park Drive is operating at a level of service A or B. And if you haven't heard that term level of service before, that's an engineering term to describe how well traffic is working on a given street. And they rate the roads from A to F, where A is essentially free flowing traffic. F would be like a traffic jam on I-15, the road's not functioning. Both Alpine and Highland accept a level of service C for our roads. So if it gets worse than C, that's when we think, okay, we need to do something here. But right now it's operating at a level of service A or B. And even with the added traffic, it would still operate at a level of service A or B. And then, to sum up the traffic impact study in their conclusions, to summarize it best, it says it is anticipated that cut through traffic from Alpine on a proposed connection to Park Drive will be minimal. So moving on from that, Austin mentioned this 20-foot lane issue, or not issue, he just mentioned the 20-foot lane. So our code. Well, let me back up. This road would be classified as a secondary access. Our code talks about secondary accesses. And I had it written down here somewhere. Because I don't have the code memorized. So essentially, our code says that secondary accesses have to meet the fire code at a minimum. And that if we're going to put anything else on them, such as curb and gutter or gating, it is at the discretion of the city council and upon recommendation of the planning commission and city engineer approval. In other words, we have to make a specific motion regarding those items on a secondary access road if we are going to approve this alignment. So the city engineers, myself, my recommendation is if we go with this alignment, let's do it as they propose it. Because as Austin mentioned, this road's going to get blown away as development continues to the east. There's no reason for curb and gutter or a gate at this time.
Can I ask a question on this image you're looking at right now?
Mhm.
You know, on the plot or plan, the subdivision plan, it shows those lots going out to where the street is. Are these lots shorter now? Because this is showing that it goes, you know, it doesn't
No.
run along the edge of them like it does on the other images. Do you know what I'm
Correct.
saying?
As I understand it, lots 205 and 210 are complete the way they are. But when development occurs to the east, the very east edge of those lots would be the west edge of the new lots. If that makes sense.
So, but, okay, 204 and 205 don't line up.
Sorry, did
Let me
I
show
say
you.
the wrong
So we have
number?
this diagram that
Oh, I
shows.
meant 210, I'm sorry.
Oh,
what
okay,
phase
here,
three could look like.
this shows it. Okay, I see what
I
you're
think
saying.
this, yeah, this
Okay.
one answers your
Okay,
question.
thank you. That answers the question.
Yep, so 205 and 210 are complete the way they are right now.
Okay, thanks. Another image, it was probably without the horseshoe, showed it all the way down or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So Jed, the idea is when this developer finishes out phase 3 to the east, this temporary lane is
Gone,
gone
yep,
and then it's.
They
just a
become part of the lots
okay.
next to it.
It's absorbed into 313 and 314.
Thank
yep.
you.
But
Thanks.
the way our code talks about it, we have to make a specific recommendation on whether or not we want curb and gutter or gates on the secondary access road.
Okay.
In terms of just the general stuff we typically talk about with developments, the culinary water, pressurized irrigation and sewer, they are all shown to have new services for each lot, just as code requires. The storm drain, I had just a couple red line comments. I needed a little more information on their storm drain report, but overall the design looked fine. In terms of geotechnical hazard potential issues, this property is not located in any areas that are classified or shown on our hazard maps as having the potential for the hazard. Therefore, they were not required to turn in any geologic hazard reports. So they weren't on any kind of alluvial fan or floodplain or anything like that. So they did the standard geotechnical report, which is required at preliminary, and there was nothing of concern that came forth in that report. Other than that, there was just a few red lines on the plans to be corrected before moving forward. So if you look in the staff recommendation area, there's two options for motions here. There's a motion, or there's options to approve, and then there's an option to table. If we choose to recommend approval, two motions will have to be made, one regarding concept and preliminary, and one specifically about the temporary or the secondary access road. If you go with the table option, then there are options there.
Okay. Awesome.
Can I just ask a quick question? So I know that we've got kind of a proposed plat here showing what's been called the horseshoe alignment. Has the developer submitted a proposed plat showing just a straight line road
So we have seen an option for it. You have to understand the developer's trying to make two cities happy here.
So they do have both.
They work in both cities. They're trying to make both of us happy. This is the option that they are presenting at this time. And so that's what we got.
So we don't,
We're not
planning
choosing. We're
commission,
just.
we don't have the opportunity tonight to see what a straight road alignment. with
Correct.
Lots.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're just evaluating this one.
Okay.
This was the proposed.
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other like important clarifying questions that anyone has before we move on? Has Jeff Davis joined us online?
I believe so.
Okay, I just want to recognize so that we acknowledge and everyone knows who is here. Is that correct?
Yes,
I can
he's
see
okay.
John
I
and
don't
Jess.
see John.
John, and I think Jeff
Jeff's
is
the
there.
right
He just
below
doesn't have his, when your video is not on, it doesn't show on the master.
I have a geological question. I'm curious why it's not an alluvial fan. Because it seems like it would be.
The whole valley's an alluvial thing.
I know. But I mean, it's a gravel pit right below it that they're excavating that out, so I'm
It's-
surprised that wouldn't be.
It's not on our map, so.
Okay.
Have to ask the geotech person.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
So one other point of
Mhm.
clarification, just because I don't really understand the option about a road going through what is currently the gravel pit. And reading materials, I noticed there was something that said that that's an alignment that would be years down the road. So what, do you have a little more color on that?
So a year or two ago, both Highland and Alpine and actually Lehigh, we got together to do a traffic study on the entire region. And we looked at options of just getting traffic to SR 92 in the most efficient manner possible. And that option was just brainstormed at that time. Like if we could bypass this neighborhood and go straight out, that obviously that would be awesome for everybody. And so it's been talked about and thrown around out there. It's obviously it's never materialized. You have to buy a lot of property and there's over 100 feet of elevation between that point and the bottom. It would be very expensive to get a road down there right now, but
Okay,
it's
but at this point, neither Highland nor Alpine even owns
right.
the property.
correct.
But it was
Proposing
part
going
of the
from-
traffic study.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the traffic study did mention, I looked up, it's 50 additional trips per hour if we
On-
avoid it.
On
If-
that one.
If it, on that one. So they just included some of the info on it on that traffic study, so.
So
Yeah.
real quick, last question. I read through the traffic study and didn't really understand. It's just a clarification point. I think the estimate was made that there would be 15 trips per hour less if drivers had to take the horseshoe
Mhm.
versus a straight shot. Do you know the assumptions made that, to base that? Where do they come up with 15? How do you come up with the numbers on either side of the?
I'm not a traffic engineer. It's all part of their computer
their
model
formula.
and how it assumes traffic will go certain ways. It's just,
Psychology.
Based,
of
it's
Yeah.
probably based on
Okay.
historic information as well.
Okay.
And that was on peak hours too, the 15
Correct.
different. So just to qualify that, that doesn't mean all day long, every hour, there would be 15 more. So,
mhm.
okay, so let's just quickly go over the etiquette for a public hearing. What we'll do is, hang on here, got to get back to page 1 of 50 pages down in here now. Thanks. All right. So basically, for public hearings, comments have to be recognized by the chairperson. You do need to come forward to the podium, pulpit, and speak into the microphone. You have to speak your name and your address. And we have to speak clearly and make sure that we all speak one at a time so that the city recorder can get the transcription right. Please make sure you're respectful. Don't disrupt when someone's speaking. Don't cheer or boo. If you whisper to each other, it picks up on the sound system and it makes it really hard for her to do the transcription. So try to avoid conversing and any items that you present to us will become property of the city. We'll be able to keep those. It's nice if your cell phones, pagers, beepers are off. And then what we'll do is we'll limit it to a reasonable length of time. I've got some ideas on that. And also, if you do leave after any point in the meeting, we have to leave the door open because it's a public meeting. And so when you talk to each other on your way out, if you go all the way around to where the exit door is and chat there or step outside, that will really help us. So we have received probably 20 or more letters from several of the residents in Highland and have read all of those letters, looked through the different points. If you have like a representative who would like to cover kind of a collection of those points, sometimes people have worked together as a subdivision and have someone who could represent, that would be great. What we'll do is, and we could give that person a little bit more time, so that we are able to make it through the meeting. I think what we'll do is give 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to the public hearing. The max, let me ask first, is there anyone who is prepared to like represent a group of people? Okay, a couple of people. Why don't we start with both of you? And then what we'll do is after that, this is very important. Public hearings are to gather information, for you to bring us information to consider and things like that. If someone else has made your point, it doesn't add anything for us to hear that same point over again. So even though you may feel really strongly, if the point's been made, then it's not necessary to make that point. So let's hear from the first two people, and then we can see if anyone else has, points that they feel like have been missed, and then you can come up. Okay, so go ahead and state your name and address.
Andrew Redford Young, 998 Stonehenge Road and 1371 East 490 South. We want to start out with gratitude, as always, for the great work you all do, and the city council. Want to thank you guys for moving the pickleball courts. Thank you so much. I know that was hard. Our entire neighborhood is grateful, and a lot of people don't have that. Alpine is a city of retirees mostly, and people that like quiet. And I think it's just preserved that. And I think we still get the win-win in having it down at the more busy park. So thank you for that. I wanted to bring up some information that might help everyone. This is very similar to the case with the Blue Bison Road, where there was an inner city road that I'm sure you're all familiar with and have scars from, that wanted to connect from Draper to Alpine. Is everyone here familiar with that?
Just so you know, you do have a time limit. Okay.
Great, I can see that there.
Okay.
The Blue Bison Road was stopped by Alpine on the basis that it didn't follow the city plan. So I'm not sure what they're talking about all of these additional in and outs out of Alpine unless it was changed after that. When I asked the city council, what legal basis did you use to stop the Blue Bison Road from occurring? It had everything to do with Alpine's master plan, not needing it, not asking for it, not wanting it, nor the citizens wanting it. I think the big hiccup, the big problem you're going to get here is that connection road. We all love neighbors. We all had to move in here. We all love that. No one's asking for another road in and out of Alpine, especially the small Edgewood circle I represent. No one, is anyone clamoring for that of the Highland City that gave you letters? Are there anyone asking for another in and out? Is this something wanted?
Go ahead and finish bringing your points you're bringing forward.
That's the
okay?
point. It's just information. We've already stopped this. I'm not sure why we're doing it again. So anyways,
Okay.
the win-win for me, because there's always a win-win. We won one with the pickleball courts. Everyone's happy. Pickleball community got their courts. We got our quiet. Everyone was happy. I think they were even happy. The lawyers were happy. Everyone was happy. Here's the win-win for this. You don't connect the roads. The developer gets more money because more people are going to want to live on those lots. They're going to pay more money for them because it's not a through road. So whoever the attorney is for the developer, you're going to get more money. Okay. Those lots are going to be more valuable. Sorry, these are my kids. They wanted to come. You're going to get more money for those lots, and the neighborhood's going to be a lot happier. You're going to win on both sides. So that's the win-win. You got it right there. It's really simple. Horseshoe is not going to work. The through road is going to create World War III. These are retirees. People move to Alpine. This is the core of Alpine. I try to always come back to this. I am not the core of Alpine. My age, my demographic, The core of Alpine is Wittenberg. She's lived here forever. She's not going anywhere. She loves it. She loves her quiet. She wants it to stay quiet. She doesn't want a parking lot in her backyard. She doesn't want a road coming from Alpine
Okay.
to Highland in her backyard.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate that. Do you have a group of people you're representing, or you just specifically who sent you, or you just representing yourself and
No, no.
you've chatted with?
We've chatted together, the
Okay.
Edgewood community in
Okay,
the
so
circle
Edgewood
of
community,
Edgewood,
thank you.
east of High Bench Road
Mhm.
and south.
Okay.
Basically, we're all really close, so
Thank
we're all
you.
talking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with the next gentleman.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me talk. My name is Dan Milliron. I'm a resident of the Viewpoint neighborhood. Address is 4201 Elk Cove Circle. And I have gifts right afterwards.
Bribery.
Just, I'll quickly explain. This is just a
Yes,
copy of
cookies.
some of the slides that we presented to the Highland City Council regarding this connection question. So I just want to say that I recognize the desire and priority of efficiency. If I were an engineer and had an engine and could make it more efficient by doing something, I would probably do that. The counterpoint is safety. And safety is, in my opinion, what trumps the efficiency argument. If the engine that I'm trying to make faster and more efficient blows up after my change, it wasn't worth it. So let's talk about the safety issue. Currently, Park Drive is not a collector road. It's right on the edge of the definition in Utah State Code for what defines a collector road. Collector road is anything over 1,000 trips per day. Park Drive currently has just almost 1,000 trips per day. In fact, if you use the same figure of merit that Jeb did, which is 10 trips per household, we are 1,030. So we're right at that edge. If you increase the traffic by 50% throughout the day, which is roughly what the traffic study predicted, 40 to 50%, you definitely promote Park Drive and High Bench Road to the status of a collector road. There's just no way around that. There are specific codes regarding collector roads. They have to have a certain curvature limit, they have to have a certain steepness limit, and they have to have a certain driveway access limit. None of those three aspects will even be close to being met for the specifications for collector roads. And in fact, they are way out of spec. You'll see all that information in these documents or the slides that I'm going to hand to you. And with that, if I could request permission to approach the bench.
He's done this before or something.
Pardon?
I said, you've done this before.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Oh, that won't get written. I should have recorded that for my kids.
Yeah.
That's all. And I just want to say thank you for allowing us to talk.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so we'll take this to a few more comments now. Again, as I mentioned, please come up, state your name and address only if your concern has not already been addressed. So just come up. I won't call on you. Go ahead and just come up in turn. And try to keep it. This is 3 minutes. If you can keep it less than that, we'll have time for more people, but I want you to be able to say what you want.
Okay, yes, my name is Karma Camposano, and I live at 4231 Elk Cove Circle in Highland in the Viewpoint neighborhood. And I actually received a letter you were kind enough to send because I live less than 500 feet away from the connection. Now, it does need to be connected, unfortunately, but we would like to limit it to emergency vehicles only, just because we are so concerned about the safety of our children. You mentioned that your roads are 54 feet wide. Park Drive is 33 feet wide. So if 2 cars are parked on the street, 2 cars can't pass each other. And there are 4 blind curves, 2 of them on the hill that's greater than a 10-degree angle. So we have a bus stop at the bottom of Park Drive, and I would invite you to drive up into our neighborhood and see that there are blind curves, there are walking paths that go to the 3 parks on Park Drive. That's why it's named that. And so there's walking paths, and as you come around and go around that blind curve, there's a walking path, and sometimes at commute time, the sun is going down and you are blinded from even being able to see children crossing. And now we have, I love teenagers. I worked for 8 years at Lone Peak High School and things, but we have teenagers in our neighborhood who have little siblings and they go over 25, which is our speed limit right now. And we just feel like there might be some from, that come through thinking they're going to beat the traffic on North County Boulevard and the light by going that way. And we're just concerned about the speeding aspect that might come from that, because really, if you go, 20 is a better speed limit really, and we're trying to get that lowered. But it is a big concern, the hill, and imagine in wintertime, it's so steep. And my daughter, even when she was a teenager, did a 360 and she was going the speed limit and on one of the turns because she hit black ice. And so I just, look at it and see how narrow the streets are and how unsafe it is.
Thank you.
For a lot of
Appreciate that.
traffic.
Sounds like you could maybe benefit from it. I've looked at that and I've driven up there too, but scary in the winter and yeah, go ahead. Yep. Sorry, I'm just chatting in between.
Good evening. Thank you for the chance to just make a couple of comments. Bryant Larson, I live in the Viewpoint Subdivision, 4204 Elko Circle, and a longtime Alpine resident. In fact, lived on
Right.
Stonehenge, just
Yeah.
a few houses down.
I
from
think
the
I know your
Stonehenge.
kids.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to speak to the safety issue in terms of that second egress from Viewpoint. When we built our home 15 years ago, like I said, we lived just north in Alpine. And we built it with the understanding that there would be a connection to the road because we were very concerned about just one egress. We've lived through where we've been evacuated with the fires on the hills. Many of the children in our neighborhood actually attend Alpine Elementary, our own kids included, because of the Chinese immersion program. And that not being able to have bus access has been a big deal. So I certainly acknowledge the other points have been made, but would just speak to the importance of having that second egress from the Viewpoint subdivision, which was something we were promised or told 15 years ago when we built. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Shalana Fuller and I live at 966 Healy on Alpine. So I'm the house literally on the corner that, faces Smooth Canyon and the other neighborhood. So of course, when we moved here, we were promised nothing's going to be built and we knew, that slides, but then they said it was going to be a soccer, like a mirror soccer.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, when the signs came up, I thought, oh my gosh, would I rather have soccer? Soccer has, been a nightmare. They block our driveway all the time. Kids have gotten hit. They double park all the time. We have to go out to ask people to not triple park. It's mind blowing because I'm like, the church is right there. And the guy who's in charge of it, Alan Taylor, actually lets people park there. He could put up the chains. I know Alpine put the, park next to it behind the north side of the church to tell people to park there. They just don't. And it's shocking because literally I'm like, you guys, the parking lot's pretty close, but we've run out 3 times screaming at kids, yelling. I know realistically, of course, there's going to be a housing development. I'm not trying to fight that. And the part of the safety going through, I kind of do hear that. Will it be a cut through? 100%. People have talked to us in Alpine down the street, down High Bench, all the way up north, and they're all like, oh, we're going to book through it. I would probably too, which is terrible. And I can see why Highland, their neighborhood are so affected because honestly, kids come hauling up and then break right where that fence is, where that. So realistically, I don't know how we can work it all out, but for sure it will be. I think it's more than even the numbers you're saying, because I would use it. Tons of Alpine people that aren't even here would say, oh yeah, we kind of will use it. We'll cut through to get to this canyon or PG, you know, whatever that, the Canyon Road is, but anyway, so I'm just saying from the perspective on our side, kind of what we're seeing. And to be honest with you, I actually think we'll have less traffic than having a mirrored soccer park, even though it's only 2 times a year. And I think they have worked. You guys have been really great after the whole pickleball thing of like, because none of the games were Alpine half the time. I'd always ask, where are you guys coming from? We never had Alpine teams. My kids played soccer, never played a game there. So I do appreciate that because I think it has gotten better a little bit this spring. And
Good.
thanks.
Glad to hear that. Okay. Anyone else?
My name is Jim Oler, and we're at 1098 East Round Mountain Drive, so we back onto the Smooth Canyon Park. Amen to what she said about the soccer park. I won't go into it anymore. We walk around the park in the morning, some of us are here, and we see kids walking from Highland across that, across the field there to catch a bus. And there's no provision on that plan for those kids. And I didn't fully understand what the school bus situation was. But I hope there's some plan for those kids that walk across that.
Just to
park.
clarify that, the bus can't get to that neighborhood from the Highland side because it's too steep. And so they don't send a bus into that neighborhood. It's at the bottom. If they had this access, potentially, we don't know what the city or the district would do, but they could potentially send a bus through there. That's just
As long as
it's
somebody,
unknown because we don't control what the
Yeah.
school district does.
as long as somebody thinks about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to bring up? Okay, great. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you for bringing those different items to our attention. And again, thank you for the letters. I read all of them and they had a lot of good information in them. So do we have anything that came forward in that we need to clarify? I would like the suggestion that with the additional traffic, that the roads could potentially not qualify, that they might become a collector road based on the amount of traffic that's on it. So I wanted you to explain a little bit about that from Alpine's side and anything from the traffic study.
Yeah, so I can address that. So as far as the collector road goes, I did talk to Highland City. And it's included in the packet. He sent me an email confirming that it would continue to be a local street as is shown on their master plan. So yeah, I don't know
Okay.
what else to say about
That's all you
that.
need to say.
Yeah, there were some numbers thrown out about as far as Alpine street width and Highland street width. I just wanted to clarify, Alpine City's right of way width is 54 feet.
Okay.
Our pavement width is actually 30 feet. Highland's pavement width is 34 feet. So they're actually a touch wider than we are on our local streets. We talked about the Blue Bison thing was mentioned. It's kind of an apples to oranges comparison there. And to answer your question, yes, the street master plan was changed. I mentioned that in the staff report. In 2020, the city council, because of the Blue Bison deal, they wanted to specifically specify what connections the city wanted. And so they updated our street master plan to show where the connections that they wanted in the city to happen. And this was one of them. And so that did come after that. So
On the opposite side of Alpine where they live.
the master plan was updated, so that
It wasn't,
answers
and
your
it wasn't based
question.
on developers, it was based on traffic flow. And obviously Alpine City serves Alpine City residents and that's our job.
Yeah. I heard another comment that traffic would be increased by 50% throughout the day. Just to clarify, the 50% is a peak hour number, not a daily number. Throughout the day, it will not be 50% more, but during the peak hour, yes, it would be 50% more. That's what the numbers show. Was there anything else?
One thing I thought was in the traffic study that I want to clarify, they seem to think that really just that small section of Alpine would probably use it to cut through because it's faster to go down Healy Boulevard for anyone who's coming and passes Healy Boulevard, that it would not be faster to pass Healy Boulevard and continue. Did I understand that correctly when they have
So,
those numbers of minutes shown and everything?
Those numbers are comparing the time it takes to travel from Healy Boulevard and High Bench
Uh-huh,
to Canyon Crest and SR 92.
okay,
So it's not saying that only this small little section's gonna do
right,
that.
right,
People who come to those intersections and are intending to go to the other intersection, it's still faster, as shown in that traffic impact study, to go down to Healy. But
okay,
I totally get it, like.
Yeah.
And it actually surprised me that the evening peak hour trips has the most numbers for this neighborhood. I would have thought it would have been the morning for the school traffic.
right.
I totally get that the high school kids are going to use it as a cut through.
Right. I also noticed that the traffic study did adjust for school hours. They
It
used
did.
a time of day during school, and then they also did that. Do you want to come up real quickly? I'll let you make one quick comment.
That study was done in June when a lot of people were on vacation.
Yeah, they listed the dates and then they made adjustments for those
So
dates.
the
but thank
study
you.
did take into account numbers that were done during school hours.
Mhm.
So when Highland and Alpine and Lehigh got together and did our study a couple of years ago, they did numbers that were during school hours. And even though this study was done in June, it used the numbers from previous studies to account for the school
Thank you.
traffic.
Yeah, one thing about being an expert in something like a traffic study, they've thought of all these things that we're thinking of, and they normalize the data. Being in data science a little bit myself, they pick these data and they know, and they make adjustments for variables that they have in their data, like the time of year that they did it and school being in or out, things like that. So we rely heavily on the advice of experts. So let's see, do we have anything else?
So did you close public hearing?
Yes, I did. I closed the public hearing. So let's go ahead and discuss as a council now.
So, yeah, we discussed, but just maybe Jed can do a little bit of fact finding for me on this, or Austin.
Mhm.
Can you just take a look at the plat, kind of with the proposal for this horseshoe? And just give me an idea of, as we're talking about directing traffic, for example, completely through this Smooth Canyon, neighborhood to be developed versus just a straight shot, including school buses, no turns versus 4 turns. How many lots or homes, I just call them lots, it's not homes, would be impacted by through traffic with just a straight shot versus how many homes would be impacted by traffic passing by in the horseshoe pattern?
Right.
Do you have a plat that we
It
could
would look,
estimate
it
that?
would, it would guess
zoom.
for, I mean,
Well, in this, just looking at this one here,
Yeah, but
The Easter-
go to one that shows the future, because this is just this current, right? But eventually when they develop the east side, that horseshoe is going to extend even further east.
could we let the developer speak?
yeah,
Yeah, oh yeah, I didn't know
absolutely.
they were here. Yeah, fantastic.
Come on down. We have the developer here. Looks like we've got the engineer here, their buddy.
Ross Welch, representing Patterson Construction. So our original submittal was for the road to go straight through. That's been the plan, that's in the master plan and so forth. As Jed mentioned, we develop in many communities, our neighbor community in Highland, we develop, and so they asked, there was concern if we did a U shape, would that reduce some of this traffic that's saying, hey, it's quicker to go down this way, right? We're just like, okay. The result is it didn't cost us any lots. So it's the same number of lots. In fact, we have a couple of guys who live on High Bench and they're going, well, the same idea, if it But they said if it costs us a lot, our kids aren't worth that much. So, you know, it's just one of those things. So it's the same for us either way in terms of lot count. Minor expense of putting in this temporary road to make the connection of the U versus a hammerhead at the end. So it's pretty much the same.
And then he's just looking at this U. Is this what we're seeing? Are they able to see the same thing right now?
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying that traffic would pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like the number of homes impacted by the traffic this way would be so much greater than if it went straight, and it would
Correct.
only impact those 5 homes that it passes.
Yes.
And then based on that traffic study, it was 76
76 versus 61.
one way versus 61. And even when it went through the gravel pit, it was only gonna be 50 more. So, and that was during peak hours, right? So I think if I could put words in Alan's mouth here, he's saying this is impacting a lot more of that neighborhood for safety
What I'm
as
saying
well.
is, if I'm just kind of guesstimating here and I'm looking at what's on the screen, I'm just counting that on the Horseshoe, you'd probably run traffic past either 29 or 30 homes. I think that lot 217 is kind of an odd one.
Yeah, really
Versus
odd.
if it was a straight shot, I think you'd run the connector traffic past, I think it's 29 or 30 versus maybe
9 or 10.
8 or 9.
Yeah, on each side of the road.
Okay, so just, you know, because I think safety is a concern, you know, and there's different ways to look at it. That's just a data point I wanna point out is we'd be
Okay.
running connector traffic and buses, delivery vehicles, Amazon vans, et cetera, past 29 or 30 homes versus
Yeah.
however many we looked at, 8, 9.
Good point.
Hey, Ross, quick question for you, and this is just, and I'm just throwing spaghetti against the wall right now, right? Because a lot of times what we try to do is
It's a very
craft,
valid point.
you know, because again, Alpine wants to be good neighbors with Alpine. We, you know, as I forgot your name,
Highland.
but you've been here before, but as a gentleman, what?
Oh, Alpine, what you said, Alpine
no,
wants
I
to be
just
good
remember
neighbors to
it.
Alpine.
Oh, but I say, oh, you want to be good neighbors.
And-
Good neighbors
Alpine and
with-
Alpine.
With Highland and Alpine.
Yes.
And craft win-wins.
Right.
I mean, just for giggles, did you by chance look at another traffic control option in like for this neighborhood? Like just for example, a resident, and I'm just throwing this like a residential roundabout.
Okay, we did not look at that.
I mean, I assume there's such a thing, right? That's not as big as a roundabout like we have coming into Alpine or over
Right,
at Cedar
right.
Hills. But I'm just wondering, for example, did you ever look at possibly some configuration with a roundabout in the middle or either on the north end or the south end? And is that even a valid, again, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a traffic guy, I'm not a developer. I'm just wondering if that isn't, you know.
What is the purpose?
Is an option. What?
Is like to slow
To slow
traffic.
Yeah, just to slow traffic and, you know, because you could always, for example, I mean, there's traffic control measures like digital signs,
Mhm.
stop signs, speed bumps, you know, different things like that, you know, people like or don't like or whatever, but a roundabout is just another traffic flow control where traffic can keep flowing, you don't have to stop, but it does somewhat slow people down. I just don't know if that's something that maybe you consider look at, and maybe it's not even feasible and it's just insane.
I'll let city engineer talk to that one.
Neighbor.
Jed saying, no, don't give me that song.
I'm just gonna say what you're thinking is that they're expensive.
They're very expensive. They would consume several lots in that process. And it's not a standard in the city, right? So our standard roads do not go through roundabouts.
So you could just say, yes, that's probably insane.
No, I know,
Any
no.
idea.
I mean, it's an idea, a suggestion but we would look at it as a developer that wouldn't want to do that unless the city said, hey, you gotta do this. I think what we're looking more at is, I mean, in one way, is the one man from Alpine suggested, well, we don't want this connection. For us as a developer, we're fine not having the connection. Highland needs the connection. They have an illegal subdivision right now. They have 130 homes with only one access, and it's a danger. As one lady talked about her daughter spinning out. I mean, you stop traffic and nobody can get in and out of that development. They need the second access. We have it in our master plan. It's always been part of our plan. We knew. We've had this since, I think around 92 in the plan. This road was always connecting down. So this is something that's a known thing. Now, will cities take avenues? Do they want to create, if a city chooses to put speed bumps, if a city chooses to put whatever their choice on how they're going to slow traffic down? Because it can be an issue. We understand that, but we're just trying to comply. We're good either way. We'll do the U if that helps and they think and you want it. Your city staff is saying, look, we're really not keen on having these utilities run through these properties. We prefer to have the road go straight through. We're fine with that too. So we are kind of straddling. I mean, if I'm going to be totally frank about this, we want the road to go straight through. We're only doing this because we're neighbors to Highland and we develop in Highland. And so that's why we're proposing it. But.
Thank you.
Ross, could you speak to that easement issue? I don't quite understand how a straight through versus the horseshoe affects the easements. And which, could we have the horseshoe with the desired easement in the roads or some other place that's easily controlled?
So what the issue on the easement is, because the road is not going straight through, the utilities have to go straight through. And so that's what's creating the.
Okay, so it's just
the
those
U
four
shape.
lots that we're talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah, right. The ones in
Okay.
red. So if the road's going straight through, those utilities will just continue through the road. There's no need for an easement.
No, so typically Alpine City has wanted their utilities in the road for access. And, obviously doesn't make our citizens very happy when somebody has to dig up their yard, even though they know there's an easement there.
So there's no way to do the horseshoe without having it go through property.
Correct.
Thanks.
Question. So
Any other-
either
go ahead.
way, am I missing something? So we're putting a lot of
Make
emphasis
sure
on
you-
this. Oh, we're putting a lot of emphasis on this from Alpine and, this
Mhm.
connector, which I always knew it was in the master plan from years ago as well, but even though you're gonna get from A to B, we're gonna, whether we go horseshoe or straight, we still have to get the traffic back through that crazy road to get to SR 92, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Is there, other than you talked about maybe the pit
Yeah.
someday,
Mm-hmm.
but that
The
seems
pit.
really crazy. But that's really.
That's just how their
problem to me
neighborhood
is
was
just
designed.
So hard to
Um,
get to, and so we're saying,
Yeah.
I'm seeing the safety issues with, it'd be great to have your emergency people be able to come in, through there. Nice to have another access out, but that really is a mess, that road. But even if you don't have any connector, you still will have to have your people access through that Highland access, right?
No, we
Where
have
would
two
you have-
connection points in the future. When this is developed out, we have a point to the east and the
Mhm.
one from High Bench. So
And
we have
how
two
will they
access points there.
Explain those, so
Could
when
you
we
pull
have
that
that,
one
will
up?
you bring up the next?
That one right there is
The
on
next
screen.
one,
So
yeah.
you see,
So that's a lot of, those are, what you count, 29 extra lots right there? Was that?
yeah, so we have those two connection
Yeah, where it
points that
connects to
come out
Country
there.
Manor.
So Country Manor is gonna.
So they'll have to do a stub either way. They've got to do a hammerhead turnaround, just like we do when anyone develops in phases.
Right,
Then they do temporary, but their full design has to show the two connections. They just don't have to do them at the beginning.
so your overall plan though would be to be able to bypass some of that really sidewinder street that comes up
Yeah,
off
the
of
intent,
SR
I mean, for
92.
most of these people, I would say, it depends. I mean, it's where you're coming from, where you're working, what
Where
you
you're
do,
going
what-
to.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I mean. But the bottom line is we gotta connect just for Highland. I mean, they've come to us, say, we need this connection, right? We have to have a connection.
Fire safety for both of these
Right.
neighborhoods would be improved, emergency service,
Yeah,
ambulance.
I mean, if you can't get a school
Service
bus up that road, how you can
Yeah.
get a fire?
But I think what part of what I think of is, how often most people commuting do not go up AF Canyon or Canyon Road to work. You do have the students who are going to go, and you have people who will head to the freeway that way.
Although
But
if the study is right, the students would still be quicker to go the other way,
Exactly.
right? So they will do it,
but
but
like you said,
they'll
students
probably
will do
learn
Depends on
that
how
it's
that
faster to go.
stoplight-
yeah,
the
they
other
do
way.
all kinds of tricky things to avoid that. You go, if you want to see creative driving, go before school and be like, How did they get there? How did that car get from there over there? I don't know how they did it.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for Ross?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, other questions? Oh, yes, I told you you could come and have, normally we don't do this, but I want to make sure that even though the public hearing is closed, state your name and address and quickly your point.
My name is Jacqueline Vinci. I live at 11173 North Shoreline Drive in Highland, part of the Viewpoint neighborhood. In response to Alan McDonald, as he was reviewing the shape of the neighborhood and saying, how would this impact the people? Is it better for the people inside of that neighborhood to be impacted by a straight connector instead of a horseshoe? I, as a consumer of property, would say that I would feel the value of my property in this new development would actually go down by having a straight line. And I would prefer, as one who's, we're actually looking at perhaps someday buying one of those lots if they open up. Having the horseshoe shape would increase the value of that property and make me feel more secure about my property rather than the straight one, because everybody connected to what could become a connector road is impacted by that traffic, even if that doesn't pass straight by their door, because you go around the corner, they're there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and go around and see what kind of questions, concerns, anything that you want to bring up. So I make sure that give everybody time.
For me, it just kind of, a lot of it comes down to safety, right? Like, is it, I mean, is it really safer, you know, to do the horseshoe? But then Alan brought up a really good point that all of a sudden, well, if we do the horseshoe, then we've just impacted 30 more houses up there. And for what I'm hearing from the studies, it's a minimal, really difference, you know, in just 20 houses or whatever it is, or 20 cars during peak time, you know, is that right? 20 more during peak time or something like that.
Between straight and you.
Yeah, in the different plans. So I guess kind of summarize, I'm just not convinced that it's that much safer and they'll get that much less traffic by doing the.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at, I think.
Okay, Ethan, do you have any questions or statements or anything you want to make?
I would just say, you know, adding on to the safety thing, I think there's a huge safety factor for those Highland residents that this road be done. Because I think that's just giant. And so
a connection of
a
some
connection,
kind,
one or the other. I don't think it makes that much difference.
Okay.
I'm not really I don't care too much other than I do think it
You
makes a lot
care,
more
but
sense to go straight.
Okay,
But
thank you. Okay, John. John, do you have anything you want to question or add?
No, I think that was helpful to address the easement question. I don't know that it's a big enough easement issue on really probably 2 lots. And so I think I would favor the horseshoe.
I think it will affect 4, but either way, it's a smaller amount. So, okay. Alan, any questions or thoughts or anything else you want to add?
No, I don't have any more questions.
Okay, Suze?
I think it impacts Highland well more than it does Alpine. I don't see a lot of people coming from that direction. From Highland into town. I mean, they could access High Bench, I guess, right there by the church.
They could go to the soccer field.
But that, you know, talking about those peak hours, just if they're talking about what he just mentioned, having an accident or something. And the way the kids are backed up on, you know, trying to get out of Alpine to school. That's gonna be a crazy, I just hate that access.
Yeah, then it's gonna have to be addressed, I think.
The weather, the roads.
At some point in time, no matter what happens here, something's gotta be done. And that's almost it's an issue already.
It is. So
Yeah.
does this exacerbate that? Or is it?
Well, obviously it will add some to it. I mean, they're gonna come from a different direction. There's still no more kids go to the school one way or the other. It's just which direction they're gonna drive. So, Jeff Davis, did you have any questions or anything that you want to add?
No, I just appreciate everybody's comments. I think that's been really helpful. And plus, I'm glad that the Patterson folks were there to kind of give us answer questions. You know, I'm in favor of connecting and providing that alternate access. And right now I'm leaning toward the horseshoe as well. I think the trade-off is probably fewer cars will go through there, even though we're exposing more cars in Highland to the Horseshoe as opposed to the straight.
Exposing more cars in Alpine, to the residents of Alpine by doing the
Yes.
Horseshoe.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Jeff, why are you sitting in a field?
Yeah, where are you, Jeff?
It's always at the top of a
Sitting in
mountain.
field in the Alps?
I hope that's fake.
Oh, okay. I am in Milwaukee today. So.
It doesn't look like
That's so
Milwaukee.
not Milwaukee.
Yeah. Okay, so my only thoughts would be to I like to rely on the opinion of experts with the traffic study as well as our city engineer and the city planner. I mean, I feel like the effect of the Horseshoe versus straight is not significant enough to change and go away from what is standard, what probably is safer for emergency vehicles as well. When we make a U like that, we do that for everyone, including emergency vehicles going through a neighborhood. That the easement, as well as that's been on the master plan. So I lean towards, even though it does have impact, I feel like the benefit of it is greater. And I don't think the impact will be significant. Either way, I think the impact of increased traffic is going to be there. But the numbers shown by the traffic study, it doesn't feel significant enough to warrant that. That's kind of what I've been thinking. But anyway, Jed or Austin, do you feel like there's anything that you need to bring back to our attention that we may have lost sight of or that hasn't been addressed? And did we need to talk anything about utilities with Heidi? Okay, all right, great.
Nope.
Did you have anything that you wanted to bring up, Austin? Okay. Does anyone feel like there was information lacking that needed to be brought forward before you could make a recommendation? It feels like we have pretty adequate information.
Yeah, I mean, I think I
But if
would have,
you-
originally I was thinking that I would like to see, I would like to see this proposed plat,
Mhm,
what it looked like with just a straight connector.
mhm,
But, at the end of the day, I mean, you asked what my commentary is, it's basically
mhm.
that, look, I mean, the straightest just between 2 points is just a straight
Yeah.
line. This was always gonna be a connector. Highland knew it, Alpine knew it, all the
Mhm.
residents knew it. Driving straight rather than making 4 turns,
It's safe.
2 lefts and 2 rights, and
Mhm.
that's for emergency vehicles, school buses, again, delivery vans, everybody else running through that horseshoe. It just does not make a lot of sense to me on efficiency. It's inefficient and I think it takes away from the safety factor,
Mhm,
frankly. That neighborhood is not wonderful to drive through unless you're a resident, a local.
mhm.
And this is anecdotal. This is not a traffic study. I just happened to call a couple of friends who live up in Healy Heights and up on High Bench in the area, just said, hey, yeah, big meeting tonight. And you interested in this? And they said, what meeting are you talking about? I mean, it was kind of a non-factor for most Alpine residents up in that area. And I said, well, they're talking about the connector through there. And I said, would you, and again, this is merely anecdotal,
Right.
Similar to the comment that I think we had from
Mhm.
somebody in the audience. And the comment was, oh, no, I'm gonna use Healy Heights Canyon Crest and go to, in
Yeah.
North County, or I'm taking, it's just faster. I'm not cutting through the neighborhood and down that steep hill and trying to fight the mouth of the canyon traffic.
Right.
But that's just anecdotal.
Right.
And others may have a different comment. So, or a different thought on that, but originally I would have liked to see what the subdivision looked like with the straight road, but I don't know that it necessarily changes.
Yeah.
my opinion.
Well, if this doesn't approved, the developer is going to come back with another proposal. And so, it's just, what we're talking about tonight is just this particular proposal. You know what I mean? Like, if this doesn't go through, then another proposal has to come forward. So,
You guys have the proposed
Anyway.
motions?
yeah, they're,
I'm already thinking that.
on there if you want to.
That's where we are.
Hey, Jane?
Yes, go ahead. Jeff?
Maybe I missed, but on this sample motion to approve, there are those two bullet items and the red lines on the plat map, including the revised storm drain calculations and the property gap issue. Did Austin cover that? And I just totally missed that.
No,
Jed
actually,
covered
that
it.
was in my section of the report. I forgot to mention that. So right
Okay.
now, there is either a survey error or it's just an error on the county records. The property lines between Alpine and Highland, there's a 13-foot gap that shows no property ownership at all. And their plans are showing to build a road there. So the issue is that needs to be addressed and fixed.
Okay.
So-
That might be my property.
Yeah,
You're gonna
Jeff,
plant
that was
trees there,
his
right?
running trail.
So sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Okay.
Good catch, Jeff.
Okay, so what's I guess it doesn't really matter because that's got to be that property gap actually has to be issued. But on the storm drain, you don't see any problems with this proposed.
No, the
Lot.
general design is fine. I just need a more detailed storm drain report. That's all that is.
Okay, without any comment, unless anyone else has any other question or comment, then we'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion then. I move to approve the concept and preliminary application to the Smooth Canyon Phase 2 with the following conditions. Prior to final application, the developer 1 will address the red lines on the plat and plans, including the revised storm drain calculations, and 2, address the property gap issue between Highland and Alpine.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeff Davis. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, John.
Okay, so John McKay seconds the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's just do a quick roll call vote since we have so many on Zoom. So let's just start with Suze, why don't we start with you?
Why don't you start?
Oh, sorry. John,
Aye.
Jeff,
Yes.
Troy,
Nay.
Ethan,
Nay.
Nay.
nay. Suze, nay. Okay, so we have 2 ayes and we have 5 nays. So we'll entertain a second motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to table Smooth Canyon Phase 2 based on the following. Proposed high bench road alignment does not follow adopted design guidelines, does not make a direct connection with Park Drive. Some utility proposed in easements on private property, and the property gap issue between Highland City and Alpine City needs to be resolved.
Okay, we have a motion by Alan McDonald.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Suze. Okay, so discussion.
Do you want to add any like safety concern, anything like that, or is that kind of just our
No, because
opinion?
ultimately, I think safety concerns come down to whatever Alpine wants to do on its side, whatever Highland wants to do on its side,
Yeah.
as far as traffic control.
So-
Et cetera. So no, I don't have anything to add to the motion.
My one question would be, is there a reason to table it that can't be addressed in a motion? Like, would the property gap issue change whether you make a recommendation to or against? I'm just trying to, usually we table something because we need more information, right? So
And
I'm
in
just
this-
trying to
In
figure
this
out,
case, you would need
what?
a final preliminary plan to vote on. So that's why it's
We'd have to
table
do-
instead of,
okay, but the final preliminary plan to vote on will have these issues resolved, but it will be the same design.
no.
Do you see what I'm saying?
No, it'll have
So
it.
you would have a direct.
We just
It'll have a
said we didn't
different
like the
design.
Okay, so you're, okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood what you were meaning by your first bullet point of the motion. So you're, by tabling this, you're
We're tabling
requesting another design.
We're tabling it because of these reasons, and if you
Okay.
want to add more to the motion to say,
Okay.
bring back a design to fix those issues, to clarify.
Okay, I
that,
think we
guess.
should clarify that then in the motion.
Well, I don't know that
because-
it needs to be because point one is it does not follow an adopted design guide, does not make a
Mm-hmm.
direct connection with Park Drive. And Jed did a nice job laying out what
Mhm.
Alpine City's design guidelines are.
Okay,
including the fact it does not make a direct connection with Park Drive. So
okay,
I would assume developer will come back the next, the next proposal that we will look at will follow adopted design guidelines and will make a direct connection with Park Drive.
okay.
New
And
my
so, and so we don't,
Yeah.
you don't think the motion needs to say that we're requesting that they come back with another
No, I
design?
was saying if you want more
Okay.
clarification, you could say that, but I
Okay.
agree with Helen.
says
It
Okay,
says
great.
it.
That's what my motion.
I'm not messing with your motion.
I'll second Alan's motion.
Okay, Sue's already
Susan,
seconded.
oh, did you? I'll
Okay.
third it.
Yeah, well, you can third it. Okay, so let's go ahead. Any more discussion other than clarifying my foggy 8:30 PM brain? Okay, so let's go ahead and start again. Okay, John,
Aye.
Jeff, no
So-
pressure. You can say yay
I
or
would-
nay, and we will
I would
still
say-
like you.
I would say nay.
Okay, Troy,
Aye.
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 aye. Sorry, I didn't call everyone's name out, but for you, Marla, everyone was aye except Jeff Davis, who was a nay.
Is that Jeff or Julie Andrews?
Hey,
Let's not get him breaking the scene. Okay, so that has been tabled and we will move on to our next item. If you want to leave, you can. Like I mentioned, make sure you go all the way out before you want to visit. And so I can't take any comments right now. But so Austin Roy, our city planner, he's the one who helps set our agendas, and he will, if you want to communicate with him, he can let you know when it's on the agenda again, okay? Okay, thanks. Okay. Yes. Ross.
I do want to make one comment. I
Yes.
do want to acknowledge this is Austin's last planning commission.
What?
Austin,
what?
thank you for dropping that bomb for us.
I knew.
What?
Yes, that is true.
How come I am the last person to find this out?
What the heck?
Oh my gosh. Hey, it was good to see you both together.
Thanks.
It's been a while. Austin.
Should I
Yes,
come to the
I-
podium?
No
I
wonder
was
he
gonna
wanted
address it
to
at the end
table
of
it.
the
He's
meeting,
gonna
so.
take off and leave us.
Yeah,
We'll
this is
discuss
my
that.
last
Why don't
meeting,
we have a
so
cake?
it's been a pleasure working with you all and, but.
Thank you, Austin. Yeah, we would have ordered a cake or
Seriously.
cookies.
Seriously.
Wait, I missed. Where's he going? Where are you going?
I don't know. Well,
I'm going to Saratoga Springs.
okay.
Moving down, huh? Sorry.
Oh, man. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have to talk more about this during communication.
Yeah, we can.
We
talk
we
about
better
that.
move forward so that the rest of the people here can move on. So let's move on to the next item, which is the public hearing on a plat amendment. This is Alpine View Estates Plat D. I just want to remind everybody, plat amendments are different than initial approval of a plat. So,
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and introduce this. So this is not a new item. We
wait,
actually.
I was to say, we've seen this.
Yeah, so the planning commission looked at this on June 7th, actually.
Yeah.
And actually, the planning commission made a motion to deny this proposal. So what you see on the screen here, this was the proposal that came on June 7th.
Mhm.
And if I can I'll just draw on the screen here. So this, the original property line is this line right here.
Mhm.
They would come out, they were proposing to come out 60 feet.
Mhm.
And it would be this new pie shape. This would be a 7,067 square foot exchange for city open space. So they would give us 7,000 square feet and the city would receive 7,000 square feet.
But remind me though, there was kind of a good cause requirement, and we had the property owner to the north, I think it is,
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
objected
so-
to the exchange.
So that's the
Yeah,
right
Is my-
one,
is this the right one?
right?
Okay.
Correct, yeah. So the neighbor to the north, so this is lot 12 of Alpine View Estates. And so the lot to the north, lot 11, that owner came to the meeting. They brought up a point. They bought their lot based on what was recorded on the plat. And so they saw, okay, lot 12 is gonna look like that. So we're gonna build our house,
Right.
according to where those boundary lines are. And so they designed their house and their yard and everything accordingly. And so at the end of that meeting, the planning commission did recommend denial. However, the planning commission said, you know what, it'd probably be a good idea if the two neighbors talk together and see if you can reach some kind of compromise, work something out. So tonight.
I think we recommend they step in the octagon and talk it out. Was that? Oh, that wasn't it.
Yeah, I couldn't get my pay-per-view, so I didn't see it, but.
Sorry,
Okay.
Austin. Just, it's your last day. We're not gonna make it easy.
So if I go up here one more slide, so this is so Mr. Brown, that's the applicant who's requesting this exchange with the city for open space. This is his proposed kind of compromise where he's spoken with the neighbors. As it's been explained to me, they couldn't exactly meet eye to eye, but he felt like this, what we're seeing on the screen here in yellow is kind of, a give and take. Instead of the 60 feet, it's 30 feet. And a little bit different shape here. So he wants to propose this tonight. Mr. Brown has prepared kind of a slideshow. So if we can give him a moment to present that. And then I believe the neighbor, lot 11 also would like a moment to speak as well.
Okay.
So we have both of those here tonight, but we did send this out as a public hearing because
Right.
it is dealing with public open space. So we have to have the public hearing first.
Okay, do we have to have the public hearing before they show what they would like to
We could
propose?
have it after they present, I guess.
Why don't we have them
Yeah.
present first and then we'll have the public hearing in case there's issues that come up in that, so.
Austin, do they have a copy of this presentation?
They have a digital
email.
digital copy.
Oh, they do. So I printed a copy if you want me to share that with you.
Sure, if you've got it, we can look at it now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, good evening. Hopefully we don't have as many comments as that last item on the agenda, but I'm Morgan Brown and I'm the lot owner of lot, I think it's 325 North Chatfield Circle in Alpine here. And you're exactly right. We did come before the planning commission here 2 months ago. It's just taken us this long to get back on the agenda due to summer schedules and stuff. So I appreciate the opportunity to come back and talk to you guys. So if we go to the next slide here, Austin, I know an issue that came up in our last meeting was, cause for plat adjustment. So if you just want to click on the slide, just let all the bullets come up. One more there, Austin. So I went back to Austin and asked him, did the city code actually have, a cause for plat adjustment? He came back with these two codes, which are included in the plat adjustment application. And it's more so not the cause, but if an applicant wants to make a change, this is what has to be followed. And so I just wanted to make that point just clearly. Austin, if you can go to the next page here, just a little background, just to remind you guys, we purchased a lot in April of 22. So here just, 4 or 5 months ago. And at the time we purchased that lot, we asked the developer, who happened to be the lot owner at the time, why the lot was shaped that way. And if you recall, the reason why he made it narrower, and didn't actually align with lot 11 was because he wanted to make sure he had the depth to potentially connect with an open space behind that subdivision. In case he ever wanted to develop that subdivision, he wanted to have access to that. But at the time of us investigating, doing our diligence, we talked to the city planner, Austin Roy, we talked to the developer, and they thought that it should be no problem to adjust that property line on the northwest boundary to align with lot 11. Obviously, it would have been to our advantage to have had this opportunity to come before you guys before we had to purchase a lot, but that didn't happen. So if you go to the next slide, Austin, and then if you can just kind of click through there so we don't have to go there. Once again, just a reminder, Austin, this is the yellow is the current boundaries of our current lot. You can see that it's very narrow and deep. It's over 300 foot deep. And we're suggesting that, you know, one, we're not looking to develop the property behind us. We don't need that access to the property behind us. We'd rather have a more buildable plat, and that's what we're coming before you guys. So as Austin showed in the next slide here, you know, our original proposal, so you go to the next slide here. And then click through those as well. But this is our original proposal. We thought that that made the most sense, where we would align the boundaries with our northwest, our north neighbor. And as you guys recall, and you probably heard it today, they talked a lot about losing their view corridor. That's what we bought lot 11 for, was this view corridor, and we're losing that. And so I'm here to kind of show you what their view corridor is, and hopefully we can come up with some compromise. But that was the message that we heard from you guys. You know, talk with them. Let's see if we can come up with a compromise that works for all. And so that's really what I want to talk about in the next slide, Austin, is sort of what I did post that meeting. So we met, I think it was on June the 7th, I think, Austin. On the 11th, which was a Saturday following that meeting, I met with the Helmers on their lot. And prior to them getting there, I marked out the current boundaries of where my lot was. And so that, you know, once again, they could visualize where my lot boundaries were, and we could see what this view corridor was. And before I could even start, you know, and have a conversation with them, they were very clear upon their arrival that the only way they would agree to a compromise is if they received more. And they said, unless we received more, why would we ever agree to a quote unquote compromise? And so my understanding when we met last was that when you guys talked about compromise, it wasn't about can lot 11 receive more, it was can lot 12, my lot, can we reduce our ask and not impact lot 11? And, you know, I stressed for lot 11, the Helmer, I said, you know, a win for you guys is for me to really adjust my boundaries such that my home can be on a diagonal and be parallel with the street to create more open space between the two homes. That's going to be the win. If we can adjust the boundaries, that's the win for you. The other key takeaway is that very bottom one there. As I was talking to those guys, they acknowledged that this view corridor they talked about last time was really not the view corridor to the south through my lot, but it was really to the west. So looking this way, and the only time they had a view was in the wintertime when the leaves fell off the oak trees behind their property. So that's the view corridor we're talking about here. I think that's an important point. So if you go to the next slide here, Austin, I tried to take some pictures from their home, from their deck, to kind of show you what they're looking at from their current home. You can see across the top there from their home and from their decks that they've got a bank of oak trees behind their home, which is what they're looking at to the west. And the only way there's even any view is through my lot to the south. My lot is that lot directly to the south there. And I've put that red circle around my boundary. So that's my boundary. And so once again, if I were to place my home on that lot 15 feet from the boundary, which has been agreed to by the city, you know, in the city council here, my home would be right there. They'd be looking directly at my home. There would be no view between that tree line and looking south. And they acknowledge that. They, once again, the view they're concerned about is to the west through those trees in the wintertime when the leaves fall off the tree. So I did do a video too, Austin. I don't know if that'll play or not. You want to try that? Hit the play button on that video. Did it work at all? Right there it is. Can't really see it, but there is a line there that I'm trying to show you where my property line is, just to the inside of that bank of trees.
Is that yellow string showing where it currently is?
Yes,
or
where it currently is, where it currently is. So right now, that's exactly where the current boundaries are with the current plat that's been recorded with the city. So if we can go to the next, so once again, I was hopeful that we could come up with a compromise that, it wasn't an octagon, sort of battle there, but I did hope to come with a compromise with the Helmers, but unfortunately, like I said, from their perspective, they didn't feel like it was in their interest to make any compromise at all unless they received more. And so what I'm proposing now, and you can flick through that on that right side there, Austin, is what I view as my compromise proposal, which I think actually benefits the Helmers as much as it benefits me. Because I think the goal is to make it a win-win, kind of like the gentleman prior was talking about. Can we make it so that the dimension between our two homes is at its widest point, and can I fit a home on the lot? And so once again, my compromise is reducing the ask by 30 feet on that northwest boundary, so our property lines wouldn't match exactly. I would be 30 feet in from their property line. And then that 30 feet I'm giving up, I would just extend out the back of my property 30 feet. So that 7,000 square feet that Austin talked about would be the same trade I would make with the city. I would give them, the back part of my property here, make that open space for that 7,000 square feet on the west side of my property. The next slide here, and just real quickly, I wanted to show you once again, because there we go. Once again, the part the Helmers are concerned about is that northwest corner. So I tried to plot out what my home might look like on that lot, whether it be angled to the street or facing north and south. And you can see there that in either of those scenarios, it creates a large distance between my home that I would build there and the Helmers home. So once again, I view that as an extremely good win for both of us. It creates a big gap for them, and I think a win for me as well. We can probably go through these next two slides fairly quickly. I think the original proposal I proposed here 2 months ago is still a viable proposal. I think it creates, go to the next slide, Austin. I think it also provides that buffer zone that the Helmers are concerned about. But in the spirit of trying to compromise and come back to the planning commission with something else, I think what I proposed there makes a lot of sense. And then if you go to the last thing, and I just want to kind of end on this, and I have a summary slide. Somebody, I can't remember which one of you guys asked, well, if we just inverted that triangle that you're asking about, what would that do? And so once again, I just tried to show the planning commission, if we inverted the triangle, left the northwest boundaries exactly where they are, and just extended out the south boundary, that's what it would look for. Obviously not ideal for us, but definitely better than not having any plat adjustment at all. And if you look at the next slide, I've tried to chart out how my house might look on that lot. Still somewhat preserves that northwest corner that the Helmers are concerned about. Makes it a little more tricky for me to build my house on that lot, just because it's narrower and be very angled and stuff, but definitely better than no proposal at all. So in summary, I think we've tried to compromise in our ask, but we're trying to be mindful of their needs and recognizing that their view that they talked to you guys about really is a view to the south through our lot, but it's a view west. In the wintertime when those leaves fall off. And so I think it creates the biggest, open space between our two properties, which in fact, where their deck is, where their master bedroom is, where the master bath is. I think that's where we want the biggest, gap between our properties. And by submitting to this adjustment, I think would create that. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Okay, yeah.
Hi, I'm Trish Brown and I'm Morgan Brown's wife. I just wanted to share a story if I could, a quick story. In that cul-de-sac, there's a couple that lives there, Bob and Catherine Chatfield, and I think that subdivision is named after them. They have a house that's like sitting behind, and then there was a lot here, then lot here, and then the Helmers lot there. And I had run into them when we went to just go look at the lot, and she was outside. And the lot to the left of them had gone and asked her, hey, do you care if we build like a separate garage, like a separate garage, like right here? And she's like, so she was telling us they did. So they did. They built this great big humongous garage. And I said, Catherine, why did you do that? I'm like, you can't even see out, and like that garage is blocking your whole, you can't, like, when you even pull up into the cul-de-sac, you can't even see your house. She said, I just wanted to be a good neighbor. Like, literally, you can't even see her house. And I just feel like, I mean, literally, we've lost so much sleep over this. And, and I just feel like we have tried so hard to work with them, like, how about this? How about that? How about this? How about that? No, 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 only if we can get something. So I just feel like we've tried. So I don't know, I'm just hoping that you guys can have compassion and have something so that we can build a house so that aesthetically it's pleasing to that whole cul-de-sac, you know, when you pull up. So anyway, thank you.
Okay. Let's go ahead and have the. Thank you.
Sorry, lost my voice, so. We are not trying to be difficult neighbors at all, and I don't. When we first came to the planning commission, we found out 5 days before this plan. Since then, we've been able to find out more information, and I wonder if I could pass this information out to you guys.
There, yeah, I got you.
One more. One more.
Okay.
So talk about last sleep. We have a house that's built on the property, so we have been really torn up about this as well. And I just wanted to go through the timeline of events because a lot of this information we didn't have the last time we met. But we bought our lot in September of 2020. We spent 5 months designing the house to fit on the lot to maximize the southwest corner of the lot. And you can see up on actually, if you can go to the next slide, Austin, you can see how the house is designed. So our whole backyard space is in that southwest corner. That's where we spent a lot of time to make it fit on the lot how we wanted it. We submitted our building permit to the city of Alpine on April 30th, 2021. The Perrys were designing their home in that time too. I'm not sure how many months it took them, but they actually submitted their plans to the city and they were rejected because they had built it with 15-foot setbacks, rear setbacks on the property. So the Perrys, so we began excavation on May 4th, just with the dirt. The 5th, the Perrys came to the Planning Commission to ask for an exception to their lot because they already had the plans made. They spent the months and months planning, and it was their understanding that the rear setbacks had been changed to 15 when they purchased the lot from the developer. At the time, the Planning Commission said, well, maybe we should do the same for lot 12. I think it was Jane that spoke and said, can we even do that? And someone said, yeah, we can change the rear setbacks. That's no problem. So when we, and then on the 5th, the 11th, it was presented to the city council that the rear setbacks could be changed. So had we known that the Helmers, or had we been notified that the plan to adjust the rear setbacks on lot 12 to 15 feet, we would have objected that date with the Planning Commission because we already had our plans in place. We would have objected to the city council on the 11th and said, we already have our plans submitted to the city. And we weren't notified. We found out, not during the Planning Commission meeting when we met with you guys in June. We found out from Mr. Morgan Brown when we met at the lot that the rear setbacks have been changed to 15 feet. Our building permit was approved on May 17th. Their foundation was completed on June 1st. And the Chatfields at that time, they owned the lot. So we had spoken to them about the plans for their lot. They had not asked us to change the rear setbacks on their lot. They had not come to the Planning Commission to ask for an adjustment on the setbacks on their lot. And we found out later they had sold that lot to the developer, to Griffin Johnson. And then, as you know, the Browns purchased that lot in 2022. So we went through the whole building, the footprint with the meeting when we met with you guys and they proposed their first plan. 30-foot rear setbacks were discussed. So we that was our impression too, that they were 30 rear setbacks. So you can imagine our surprise when we showed up to meet with the Browns on the 11th. And we tried to, and you can actually show the next slide, please. So you can see our home, the very back corner off the master, that is set at 30-foot setbacks, rear setbacks. We completely lined our home so that a structure would not block our southwest view. And so we were surprised when you said that the rear setbacks had been changed to 15. So we reached out to Austin to verify that that was true. And he said, yes, it was true. So that's when we went back. We listened to all of the planning commission meetings, the city council meetings. And we were shocked that the city could just change the rear setbacks on a property when a home was already being built. The plans had already been made and set. If you can show the next slide. There, it's deceiving when you look at that lot, that it's not buildable. It is buildable. And we actually determined that at the last planning commission meeting. If you go back to the very first slide, Austin, and that kind of shows the plan. This is what you guys discussed during the planning commission meeting with the Perrys when they came. You can see the Perrys lot is lot 13. Their buildable space is actually more narrow than what's even approved now with these 15-foot setbacks. So we've already lost. We were never notified. We could never come and say, hey, wait a minute, let us adjust our plans then. Let's rearrange our home. We already had a foundation plan place and we weren't even notified until the house was being built that the 15 setbacks were changed.
But just clarify to me, what did you lose by lot 13 having a 15-foot setback?
You mean 12?
Were you referring to lot 13?
Oh, I'm sorry, not 12. So
Okay.
yeah, with us finding out later that you guys had also changed lot
Okay.
12, even though the Chatfields had not asked for that exception for their lot. I'm just showing on that slide that 13, the buildable space for the Perrys, they've done an amazing job. They built a beautiful home on that lot, and it's a smaller footprint than they have for lot 12 for the buildable space. And they have plenty of space. If you go back, if you go to the next slide.
They do have quite a bit more frontage on their street. If you look back at that
Right.
lot.
Yeah, you can keep going. But I'm just saying, we determined that at the last planning commission meeting, that there's plenty of space to build a house. Maybe not the house that the big house they want, but there is buildable on it. And then if you go to the next slide, we did not say that we had only a west facing view. As you can see, the edge of the deck, when we took 5 months to build our plans, it was all based on that rear setback. So we knew a structure could not be built within 30 feet of the rear setback. So now it brings it to the edge of our deck there. So we still have 15 feet where a structure cannot block our south view. And we do have a view of the temple. We have a view of the city lights. So it's not just
Which direction is this looking?
That's looking
exactly
south.
south,
Due
straight south.
Exactly. And then if you go to the next slide. One of the council members mentioned last time, a planning commission member said, well, didn't you think a house would be built next to you someday? And we said, absolutely. But that's why we went with the 30-foot setbacks. Every window in our home, when we went through the design process for 5 months, we maximized the view. This is a window in the bathroom, right? I mean, we really tried to position our house so that we could maximize all views and privacy. If you can go to the next slide. This is out our great room, so directly looking outside the kitchen. So again, the first proposal that the Browns, they wanted to completely match our property line. And that's privacy for us. It's maybe not a view corridor to city lights, so that's privacy to us.
So what direction are we looking
Now
right
we're
now?
looking at southwest in the very due corner.
Southwest, and how far is your property line behind this view? 30 feet?
So with the edge of that, where the sliders, that's the 30-foot setbacks to our property line. And then if you can go to the next slide, and then the next slide. Oh, sorry. So if you go back to the plan submittal, sorry, right there. So you can see that space, that southwest corner of our property. That's where we already have a plan submitted for landscaping. We were going to maximize that back corner. So we do have a south view. It's been compromised because of the decision of the city of Alpine without notifying us. So we've already lost. So we're not saying give us more. We're just saying, hey, we're not okay with any more changes. We've already compromised. We've already lost. and nobody notified us. And so, back to, meeting with Mr. Brown, we met with him on the 11th. We tried to explain the 30-foot setbacks. He dismissed it. He said they're 15. So we said, okay, well, let me talk to Austin. We were not aggressive. We were saying, hey, we're willing to talk about it. We just need more information. And that's what we have now is more information. We reached out to him with a plan, with an idea. We hadn't heard back. We haven't heard back from him. And that was on the 12th of June. We sent him an option to consider. Again, this is an official plan. It was like, hey, what if we give up our whole south corner and then we were able to have the west corner? I mean, we were just trying to think outside the box. There was no response. We then reached out to Austin and we sent him all the communications that we had with Mr. Brown to let him know that we had been trying to communicate. We have heard no other communications. By July 25th, we still had not heard anything. And so we emailed Austin to see what was going on. And that's when he responded on the 26th and said that Mr. Brown's decided to move forward with the plat amendment. And that's why we're here today. So again, we've lost sleep. We have been building this home for over a year. We are going to be moving in a month and a half. We're sick about it. It's like now we have conflict with our new neighbors and it's not our fault and we weren't notified. And so we feel like we're the bad guys and it's just not fair. And we do not approve of any lot changes being made. We've already lost a lot. So,
okay. All right, so let's go ahead and take public comment, or let's go ahead and let's go ahead and open the public hearing. So the public hearing is for new information. If anyone has any comments on it. So does anyone here have any comment that they would like to make in the public hearing? Okay, so come forward, state your name and address and we'll
Morgan
formally
Brown,
do this.
325 North Chatfield Circle here in Alpine. Lynette mentioned the proposal that she had said. I just wanted to share that with the planning commission to see how unrealistic what they proposed. It wasn't even worth the response, but I'll share that with you here. But you can see from this proposal that, you know, my whole goal and aim of coming before the commission was to widen my lot to make myself have a wider buildable area so I could face the street. She actually is proposing a much narrower building area. And in fact, that pink area is area that somehow she's going to trade some land that she has for some of my existing land or something. But at the back of my property, she wants me to go from my existing property line into the open space over 110 feet, which there's a gully there that drops down into the gully. I'm not even sure if it impacts the trails down there, but it would require a significant amount of retaining to even take advantage of this extra 110 feet to the west that she wants. So you can see clearly by what she's proposing that she doesn't care about the south facing view because she wants to give me even more of the south of the property. She's just trying to preserve that space between our two homes. And I think that the compromise proposal that I submitted achieves what she's hoping to accomplish. So,
okay,
anyway.
Thank you. Any other public comment? State your name again and.
Trish Brown and Chapel Circle. Austin, can you show her slide where it has those trees and then our lot was there? And she said that she can see that because that's our lot. Where she's saying that she can see from the deck out to the lake. That is all of our lot. On her picture that she has. So, yeah, so that's our lot as well.
Can you draw on that, Austin, where their lot is, just so we can see?
We can see the state.
If you look at that slide deck that I showed you, or that picture deck, I circled where our property line
Okay.
is.
All right.
And just kind of picture 15 feet in from that stake is where our house could be built. There would be no view to the south. If you want to look at that page there, that circle is where our property existing boundary is.
Okay, thanks. That's the back property line though. This stake, tell me which corner of the property, this circle with the stake in
Yeah,
it.
that's my northwest corner. That's
Northwest corner.
Southwest corner or south.
Southwest, yeah.
And you can see the property line goes and you know, it's not straight out.
Right.
or there's-
But it goes directly right along those trees, which I showed in that video, exactly where that existing.
Okay. So your existing property goes along the side of it. Okay, come to the, here, no, I'm sorry, no comments from within. So if somebody wants to make a comment, you've got to come to the mic and you have to say your name, yeah, and your address.
Jim Elmer, 349 North Chapter Circle. We sent you that suggestion, as
Sorry.
a suggestion to open conversation because we never heard from you. So that wasn't something that we thought you would do, but we wanted to open the conversation because we hadn't heard from you in a month and a half.
Yeah, to address the council, so thank you.
Yes, so that's the point.
Okay.
We knew a structure would be built there. You actually have to physically go on that lot and see that peg, but that's why we aligned our house to that directly until we learned that those setbacks have been changed. So.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have anything that they would like to add to the public comment? Thank you.
Good evening, Will Jones, 7 Elk Court. I think there's another party to this discussion that I would like to address. First of all, public. We're talking about exchanging public open space. And I can't imagine what our gain or losses in this. And I don't know why we'd anxiously embrace changing ground that we've already received for something else, which we didn't get. But first, that's my question. And the reason I want to do that is if you could put up how close we are to the trail and what this does to get us closer to the trail.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's never been a
Austin
concern
and
of
Jed
mine,
can
except in everything
address
we do.
that.
So thanks for coming up, Will, because I was gonna mention this earlier. Austin and I were looking at the aerial here and
Should
I'll
we-
just let you talk because you're gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, since it's public comment.
So what
go
it
ahead
does
and
is
talk.
it puts us out closer. And every time we do that, we create an issue.
Can you draw where the trail is on here for me and show me what it does to the trail?
I can.
Yeah.
So we had these trails surveyed prior to the first proposal, and this one comes down here. And I'm gonna stop drawing for a second because you can see where the ground has
Yeah.
been modified there.
Right.
That trail comes down and then it keeps going that way, and then it actually comes down through here and goes this way.
Right.
If we do any kind of adjustment like that, these trees right here are potentially going to get wiped out. I don't know if that is on their plan or not, but that's just trees that would block view from the trails. So it's trees that we currently own that we wouldn't if the proposal went through.
And what, if the proposal went through, is there any gain? I know we've been through this before already and with the original proposal, but what is the gain to the city on the modification? What property is traded for that piece of property?
Can you show the back of that property? There's lots of trees in the back of the property. as well.
So if we were to draw this proposal, and this is, I mean, I'm doing it by hand.
Yeah, I
so-
know. Right,
I
like
mean, you're
that.
doing something similar
So
to
you
that.
gain there. And is there any benefit to the city for the back, like access to that road or, like?
Well, that road's a private driveway.
Oh, that's a private driveway. Okay. I'm just trying to see anything that might.
Yeah.
if
See, that's
there's
what I was
any
looking
reason,
at, because I'm just looking at it going, as public, I don't know why we do this. Secondly, as head of the Trails Committee, I definitely know why we wouldn't do it. It's because we battled this up above before, if you remember, just above this, we had a very difficult time getting the trail in there and built. And as these homes were being built, we haven't had a trail there. And I've got a resident that calls me and the city about once a week and asks when we're gonna finish our trail and get it in right. Well, this kind of stuff just keeps impacting it. And it's a tough trail anyway, because it's not one that's easy access. It's one I asked to have paved, but that didn't work out. But so it's an inner neighborhood trail, and we're trying to bring other people to it or it won't get used. And if you put houses closer and closer, it just makes it feel like we're encroaching on people. And so we try to avoid that at all costs.
Thank
I have a quick comment or question. Remember that the other planning commission meeting, there was a gentleman that came and stated his name and he talked about trying to preserve the trail. They're
Mhm.
trying to-
Yeah,
What was his whole?
He's the
Anyway,
one-
he
he's
comes
the
a
one
lot.
we hear
He's a lot. He's the one. who
It's the
contacts
one that called
He's the
me.
one calling you.
Yeah, yeah.
But what was
Because it
his,
just hasn't happened and we're trying, and so that's why I say every time we
he's
do. one
been
of these-
maintaining it and trying to.
Yeah,
right?
he's actually been out and helped and done some things. We put some signs up, they were gone immediately. And then they actually dumped all the material
So
from
this
those
exact
houses
same trail.
on the trail.
Okay.
Right
His
here.
main concern is if the city does any kind of exchange here, if it affects the trail at all, he wants to make sure that the city's not the one paying to now go refix the trail if
Okay.
it affects it.
Let's finish out the public hearing. So if anyone has a new item to bring to the public hearing.
Just a clarification, because my understanding, Jed, from the last planning commission meeting was that you said you went out there and surveyed the trail. And even my original proposal, which goes out to the corner boundary, did not affect the trails at all. Is that correct?
That's correct. And what I'm saying right now is even whether we did this option or this one. And again, I'm totally
Yeah, it's
butchering
okay.
that. All I'm saying is that right now we own oak brush right there, which would be a buffer between your lot and the trail. And if we did the exchange, it would probably get wiped out. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing. Okay, public hearing closed. Can you leave this up and show the third option that, that the Browns had in the back of the packet,
I
which
think
was just,
Austin should try to draw it.
which was
Trying to
just,
draw-
which
Which one are we
just
talking?
went straight and squared off the lot.
The inverted triangle, okay, so it would look something like this. Is that the one we're talking about?
Right, which doesn't impact the view of the neighbor. It makes the center of the lot a little bit bigger. I don't recall where the trail went through there, but I think that it curved down. Does it bring
You
any,
can-
does it affect the trail?
You can somewhat see it on the aerial. I mean, right now it's doing
Okay, so it
that.
brings it closer to part of the trail, just not that other part.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
To access that from Hog Hollow. Well,
Where is the trail access to that?
Where do you
This
access
one,
that
if
from
I were
Hall?
to
There
continue
you go.
drawing this trail,
Does it go between? Okay,
there's. it
is
actually
that an
goes-
access point
they're up
between
off the
two
screen.
lots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it actually goes through about 3 different times. It goes through 2 lots. Unfortunately, that's what, on that side, there's the Chapter Road, the other side, these people are over on that. Is that Rooster?
Yeah,
Do we have open space there? Or is that actually someone's lot?
it's open.
Okay, that's what I thought, that we had open space. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, this is tough because there's no way to make everybody happy. We have an existing. We have an existing what, lot? And a requested amendment. We have the trail and the city interests to look at as well. So let's go ahead and have a discussion.
So, okay, so just point of procedure. It's been a while since we looked at this.
Mhm.
Didn't we already make a motion and a recommendation to the city council on this? But at the conclusion and just speaking with the parties, it was like, hey, if there's any way
Mhm.
to work something out and come back to us, then great. We'd like to make everybody happy if we can. Clearly that hasn't happened for a variety of reasons, but just procedurally, where were we after the last time? Because don't we already have a motion to deny the, I don't know if it's a variance? or
Well, it's a
what.
separate,
Yeah,
separate
so,
proposal.
so we have a motion to deny the original proposal, which would have been what that boundary at that original mark. So tonight, Mr. Brown wanted to be on the agenda to say, what if, instead of doing that, what if
Oh,
I come in
it's-
30
it's
feet?
This is the.
So essentially, he's throwing out a new proposal,
Mhm.
and now we have to make a new recommendation on his new
Okay.
proposal.
Okay, that helps, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, Alan, that was kind of my question is like, didn't we ask them to work it out? And then come back?
Well,
with a solution.
I don't know that we formally asked them to work it out. We just thought it would be great if, there could be a meeting of the minds and we could come back and rubber stamp a compromise, but yeah, clearly that hasn't happened. So
Okay.
that was my question too, Jeff.
Okay.
I
Okay.
understand
Yeah,
where
that was kind of my thought, my thinking as well.
So now
My
basically
question.
you've still got, no agreement between neighbors, but a new proposal, which kind of splits the baby from the original boundary versus the original proposal.
That brings in the city as well.
Well, I do think, and it did originally, I think we just hadn't talked as much about that, but I do believe kind of the conclusion was knowing that people make decisions based off recorded plats. Is there a significant reason to change, a lot?
Yes,
And
I agree, Jane.
I think that's where we decided, no, not necessarily as much, based, but if we did say that if they could agree to it, then it would be maybe more feasible to change it, because it wouldn't adversely affect someone who had made decisions based off the plat.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's put very nicely, Jane. I think that's what I remember. Yeah.
All right.
And to some degree, I think there was, exception made back in May of 2021 for lot. Let me keep them all straight. For lot 12, to give it a 15-foot setback instead of a 30.
Who brought that forward? The request.
That was brought forward by the Perrys, I
Who
believe.
previously owned the lot?
No, they are the
Oh.
current owners of that lot.
Oh. Oh,
This is lot
I
3.
thought it was lot 13,
Oh, I'm
and
not
then I
showing
thought
this
you
on
corrected me and
screen.
said, no, that was lot 12. Oh, they did 12 and 13 at the same time, and it seemed like the developer said that this is really shallow, could we help these two lots out? The Perrys want it, so let's do this to both lots because
Right.
they were way too narrow to build on without that 15-foot
So the
exception.
lot that's
I
highlighted on
remember
the
that now.
screen, that's lot 13.
Right. That's why I was wondering why she was concerned that lot 13 had been changed, but 13 and 12 were changed
Yeah.
at the same time. I remember now.
Which I think Helmer's point is that when they proceeded with their own design, there was
They
the
weren't aware of
assumption that,
that.
hey, we have a 30-foot setback, so
Mhm.
everybody's got a 30-foot setback, but turns out it was, again. the
Someone had
meeting was
applied for
properly
an
noticed, It was
exception.
properly applied for, an exception was granted.
Sure.
But there's already on lot, what's the south one again?
13.
Anyway, on 13,
Eleven.
there's already that exception for a
Right.
15-foot setback
Right.
off the rear property line.
I remember that. And it was open space there and it was open
Yeah.
space
Yeah,
here.
I
And
remember
that's why we decided that would be okay.
Can I ask a quick procedural
Mhm.
question? So, because I remember that meeting as well, when we approved those two lots.
Right.
For that setback. So we're not required to notify neighbors of that, or I guess. Or,
So that was a setback exception. We do not have
You
a
don't know.
public hearing notice requirement in our city ordinances for setback exceptions.
I remember that meeting and I remember, us discussing and thinking, is that gonna affect anybody if we set
Right.
it back? And we're like, no, it's open space, you
Right.
know what I mean? And
Yep.
so, man,
Yeah. But, it's reasonable. You also we have to look at, like I said, the build, unfortunately, the building space of those, you can imagine with a 30-foot
Yeah,
setback,
yeah.
what that looked like. Do you remember what it looked like when it
no, it
came
made a
in?
lot of sense here,
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
I can take a shot at it,
Okay.
I guess.
Somebody has to, I can't.
So there's no sample motion so it's either table or approve, is that it?
Deny,
Deny, maybe I'm on the wrong one.
deny, table, or approve. was always the,
Okay, I just can't see deny unless I'm looking at the wrong one.
what page?
This one is
the-
denied. Right here.
I think that's a oversight that we didn't include a sample motion to deny, but
Okay.
it's
I
definitely
think,
an option.
I don't think there's a lot of bullet
I would-
points that need to go with it,
Yeah.
whether you approve or
Yeah,
deny it. there's
I would
not
just
really-
motion or to deny, propose to deny it.
Okay, so we
Based,
have-
yeah, I mean, do I need a reason? I mean, the city
It's
doesn't,
not, it helps if you state a reason,
I
but,
mean, the city doesn't gain anything and I think it encroaches too close to our trails.
okay, so we have a motion by Troy Slade to deny the request, and do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, and a second by Jeff Davis. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. I'm sorry, we couldn't come to a better agreement for everyone. But we'll have to follow the recorded plat. Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Jane, who seconded?
The second was Jeff Davis.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next item, which is the site plan for Montadella Townhomes, a covered patio deck option.
Microphone. Okay, so this is a request to make some design changes to the Montdella Townhome development. So we've had some requests come in before. This is a new owner since the last time it's come to Planning Commission. They have are actually working with the original architect that was working on this project when it was first approved. And so you can see here, this is a sketch of what they're proposing or wanting to do. So let's see here, whoops. Just lost that, let me go back. Okay, so what they're proposing to do is cover the patios or the decks that come off the north end of these buildings. So this area here, this if you'll recall, on the south side, there's a garage.
Mhm.
Over here is kind of the main door to the home. And then this would be the back of the home that faces Dry Creek, faces the North Mountains. And then they kind of have a patio here. So what the developers is wanting to do is they want to have the option to be able to cover those patios or those decks. And so let's just go. This is a kind of another profile view that you can see here. So I'll just draw here on the screen. This section here would be brand new. That's not currently there. So they would be
That's
extending
currently
out the
the
roof
deck.
line.
That's the deck and the open space under the deck right now.
So those windows that you see there, they're not actually glass windows. They're just kind of holes in the brick wall.
Okay.
And you can see, so
Like
that
a
you can see
veranda.
it's open,
Okay.
it's open air into the covered balcony or covered deck.
Okay.
And so this is what they're proposing. Again, they're not changing any of the architectural features of the building. So it's still the same roof. It still has the parapets, the little towers on the windows and the brick, everything is still the same.
Covered decks are included in the setbacks and everything anyway, right?
So these changes would meet the setback requirements. So
Doesn't a deck with a roof over it already have to meet the setback requirements?
I mean, they would have to meet the setback requirements. What I mean by that is if they were granted this, they have enough setback in between the property line and where the new covered extended deck would be.
Right. My question
be an
was,
issue.
is this extending the deck farther out than it used to be? Are you saying, is this just enclosing the sides of the deck?
It's enclosing it. So if they had a deck there, that deck now has a roof on it.
Oh, it didn't have a roof before?
No, it
Oh,
was
I
just
thought
an
it had a
open,
roof. Okay.
kind of an
Right,
open
yeah.
style deck.
No, I understand. I thought they had
more
a covered,
traditional.
I thought they had a roof over it already, which already would have had to meet the setbacks. So thank you.
Page.
Okay. Anything else we need to? know about
So
that?
we do have a representative here tonight.
Mhm.
And so if you would like to hear from her, she can answer any questions you might
Sure,
have.
why not? If you've sat here this long, you deserve to at
Oh,
least.
yeah, because I mean,
know.
for us, last we knew, this was bank owned and moldering
Yeah.
and getting ready to be torn
Yeah,
down.
state
All of
your,
a
state your
sudden,
name
Happy to see
and
ya.
company or
let's go,
business
I'm sure.
address.
Great. We got all kinds of questions.
Yeah, sorry.
This has been an ant farm.
No problem. It's been an interesting night. My name is Stephanie Herrera. I'm here representing Mandela. Our main office is in American Fork, 829 East. I think it's like 900 South.
Okay, good enough.
American
Okay.
Fork.
So,
And you currently own this project?
Yes,
Did you recently purchase it from a bank?
we did. So we purchased it from a foreclosure.
Okay.
What's the name of your company?
This one is called Mandela Development.
What's the name of the developer, like who you're representing them, but who will be like taking over? You just have your own company, your own business?
Right, so there's three owners. Okay. I'm one of them. And then Chris Artel and Toby Rolfe are the other owners.
and you're partnering with Montdella and developing under their business name?
So we purchased Mandela.
Oh, okay, thank you.
They own the name.
They own the
Mandela
name
now.
now. Okay,
So
thank
so
you.
you just formed an LLC and it's called Mandela. and you
Mandela
purchased
Development.
There
This
you go.
property.
And it purchased
Thank you.
Mandela.
All right,
Gotcha.
And this is different than the prior
yes,
organization that presented to us.
right.
Yeah, the last one was Henry Walker Homes was the previous
Yeah.
application that
Okay.
you saw.
Perfect.
Okay, does anybody have any question about the design and what they're trying to do?
It's
I
awesome.
mean, other than that, nothing has changed, just this one thing, right?
This is the only change that they're proposing. Yeah, everything else stays exactly the same.
Was turning these into very sort of
Somebody
like
said
tract
barracks.
twin homes.
To army barracks.
Happy on-
We're happy to do this back.
Yeah. We originally
Whiplash.
purchased it because we liked the uniqueness. We obviously, we liked the location. But we don't want to change design, right? There's nothing like that here. So
I just have a
we
quick
wanna
question.
keep- Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry if I interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
So this is great. We're all happy about it. It meets the historic stuff. You know, you won't be jumping through all those hoops. But this has changed hands a lot. Just briefly, what will make it different this time?
How will you make it across the finish line?
I'll actually get it done. I think a lot of people before were making too many changes, trying to maximize spending money wrongly. We don't have those problems. So I think that we're eager to jump on it. And this is the last step to just get in there and get it done. We've actually already done a lot of improvements to it.
I noticed some action on
Yeah.
it.
Have some buyers
I
actually?
do. We have 4 people that are waiting to purchase these 2. So we're eager to get it done and get it cleaned up, get it pretty, you know, like it was meant to be.
Are you gonna do build as you have people interested? You
So
build
we're
theirs,
gonna
or you do
build
something?
the 24 and 25, which are these ones right now. And then we're gonna build the other 2 that they started. We recently had an inspector on site that went in to verify the structure, make sure we're good. We just got that report back. So we'll take care of everything that's on that report. We want to make sure it's built correctly, and obviously we want to add more value. If people are spending that kind of money down there, they want something nice. We want to give them the most that we can for their money.
Yeah, and all we can say is just, I mean, as you guys go forward as the planning commission and the city council, this is, I mean, obviously historic district, very sensitive area. We're all very engaged in the fact that this be a nice product. We were told over and over by a succession of people that came before this commission that, hey, it doesn't pencil out. So just apparently you have a different pencil.
We do. We do. I think one of the benefits that we have is, you know, the developers that are there, some of us own construction companies, so it makes it a lot easier to make it pencil.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate you answering any questions and mostly just listening to us.
No problem.
Do we have any questions? Otherwise, let's just entertain a motion on this.
I'd be glad to give a motion.
Okay.
I move to recommend that the covered patio and deck option be approved with, I don't think we have any conditions.
I'm not looking at the sample motion at the moment. So we have a motion by Ethan Allen. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Troy Slade. Were there any conditions we needed to add to this?
We didn't see any conditions as
Okay.
staff, so unless you
All
would like to add something.
I didn't see any.
The condition that they finish the project?
Yeah.
No.
They're very eager to get going
Yeah,
on this actually, so they would actually be building this right now if they could,
If
so.
they have to come. All right. Any other? Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Good luck.
Okay, yeah, that's wishes. We're excited. Okay, we have a open space improvement request from 676 and 698 South Ridge Lane. Who is going to present that?
I'll go ahead and introduce this item. So this is 676 and 698 South Ridge Lane. What we have going on here is a request to make improvements to city open space. So this area, these two lots are adjacent, are surrounded kind of by open space on almost, well, one lot on two sides, almost three sides by the time you go around both lots. And they, so they put in a pool, they put in some things on their property. And when they did that, the contractor did disturb the open space area there. And so the owners have tried to restore that to what they feel is closer to a natural state. They planted some plants, revegetated it. However, those things, typically when you make improvements to open space, you should come and get those approved by the city council. So this is something they're coming in saying, hey, look, this is here, it exists, but we want to go through the proper process and get this approved. And so so just really quick also, this is in the open space, so it does have to get final approval by the city council and recommendation from the planning commission. And so included in the packet is kind of a brief proposal from the applicants. I don't know if you all had a chance to read through that, but they really go into detail on the history and exactly how this situation came about and what they're requesting. And so also included in there are some pictures. So this is looking northward. That's the west property boundary of the Blackhams. You can see their fence there. On the other side of the fence is the open space area. If we continue down, this is a top-down view from up the hill there. You can kind of, this is a good view of what that, so all that area beyond the fence to the left of the fence is city open space. And so they want to get permission to have it remain the way it is. So those are pine trees. We have granted other residents around town to plant pine trees in open space. We don't allow irrigation in open space, so you can't put a sprinkler system, but you can put a drip irrigation system to establish those trees. And that's exactly what the Blackhams have done here. So they haven't put any sprinklers in. They did put a drip irrigation system to establish these trees. Some of these trees have actually been here, as Mr. Blackham, I think, explained to me, almost 20 years. Is that correct? Yes, some of these pine trees are actually already been there for 20 years in open space. The big ones, I think it's these ones right where my mouse is. So, but, as far as, what needs to be done, they're not asking to change anything than what's already kind of there. And they just want the city council to approve these improvements to open space.
So it's done. It's done.
It
What do
is
you
done.
mean they want it approved? Like, cause my concerns are, we just denied someone approving open space just last
Right, so
time we met.
This is not exchanging open space. They're just simply,
No, I
we still
mean,
maintain ownership.
I mean,
We had the sagebrush.
we have the sage.
Oh,
like,
Said no to the
so-
sage.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
so,
yes, yes, okay.
and
I thought you were talking about the previous agenda.
we want to remove sagebrush and do it, but
Correct.
so with something like this, my concern is were they told not to do anything with the open space before they did it? I mean, we typically, we don't allow people to go out and plant and irrigate and drip system in open space. And so,
We allow it if they come in and get permission to do it,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so that,
have allowed it.
we'll have you come up just a minute.
yeah, and they're here and they can comment.
Mhm.
So this did come up on our radar as far as, you know, a code enforcement thing. We were aware of the plantings. I don't know, for some reason it didn't get noticed by the city until recently. And so this is an effort to come into compliance with our code.
Okay, all right, well, why don't we have you guys come up and give you just a minute to kind of explain whatever you would like to explain. We'll go from there.
Well, I guess the point that I would make is that I've been a bad boy.
Okay.
And, you know, we really didn't intend to have a situation where the open space would be compromised. When it was, you know, the way we had structured this is the walls that were gonna be built behind the pool house that we were building were gonna be built from below. When the contractor came in, he said, oh, it's gonna be easier for me to drag my equipment around through the open space. We saw that the open space had been violated. And we knew immediately upon that we were gonna fix it, you know, and not just leave it scarred.
Mhm.
And so, you know, when we encountered that problem and knew that we were gonna fix it, we just, we had heard some rumblings that some people were, you know, concerned that we had messed up the open space. Phoebe called Shane to let him know that we were aware of that and we were gonna repair it before the end of the, you know, by the end of the project and everything. Left a message there to that intent, and we just thought, okay, we're gonna take care of it. It's not something, we know that we should have not, that it should not have happened. We know that I was a bad boy in doing it. And so, you know, we're gonna take care of it.
So we're really just asking forgiveness. I was on the council when the open space started. That's why the open space is important to me. It's on the council when the trails were put into place. Alpine with a country smile is what we want. It's what was our quote was back then.
That's fine.
We want it the way it's supposed to be. So,
And
So
really
anyway, we
asking-
tried, we went through the effort to just try and put in things that would be, you know, compatible with what an open space area would look like. There aren't any formal trails there, so none of these things impact that. We did put in.
Open space looks like sagebrush.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
some of it does. Some of it looks like weeds.
So at any rate, when we finished the project, we said, we're gonna do this. We brought in, you know, seed, we've put, you know, the blanket down to keep it from, you know, to allow it to establish and all of those kinds of things. And then we found out when we went to get the bond released on the project that there was this issue. So we started to go through the process of making this request for a retroactive approval of something that we had done. When we got the letter from Austin, this one, this very nicely written letter.
Okay.
You know, and the pictures that were associated with it, they were on the other lot that wasn't affected. We own both lots.
Okay.
And so we just thought, well, we better get both issues resolved at one time, because the pictures seem to be for 676 and the bond and the improvements that were made were on 698. So that's why it's a combined proposal.
So this bond, is this for your pool?
Yeah, it's the.
And so
for the
you can't
pool
get
and
your
pool
bond
house.
released because.
Well, that's what the city folks told us.
Uh-huh.
And they wanted it resolved, and we want it to be resolved.
Right.
I guess back in the day when we put all these in place, we didn't have all the formal procedures of having people do what
Yeah. What
Contact
year were
to-
these planted? What year did you?
Someone
one?
on the 676.
This has gotta be, if you still have your bond, it's new, right?
The ones
If you're
down
trying to
below.
release a bond,
The ones.
The
I-
lots are still separated.
right?
So 676 has nothing on it currently.
Mhm.
But those trees behind there are really old trees because when we bought this clear back from
Mhm,
Haley's
mhm.
years and years and years ago. I'm part of Arbor Day
Mhm.
and they give you all these little twigs.
Yeah, right, right, right.
So we'd put the twigs out there.
Yeah.
Some of them grew.
Some of them grew. Yeah.
That's
So,
some of
but
it.
what I
But-
was saying is this area you're trying to get your bond released, that's new then.
That's the new area that our contractor went over without us.
Right. So you
Knowing.
recently planted this area though,
That-
then?
Yes, those were planted
When?
at the end of last year.
Okay,
We talked to
So
the
this-
division of.
yeah.
Yeah.
right. So I can see the old ones. I just am wondering about the new.
No, the new ones are just to the left of the iron fence that used to be
Right,
around. the
right. And that was just last year.
Right, and that was last year. We, in addition to those, it was just part of the overall
Yeah.
Recovery.
repair and renovate, not
Re-
renovation, reclamation
Reclamation.
of the open space and reestablishing it to
Okay.
what it was.
When we did that, we called the state division, whatever it is that tells you what kind of dirt and seeds and all that, to find out, to make sure that we got the Utah native seeds and grasses. Did it the way that you're
Yeah.
supposed to do it with the straw and
Yeah.
the mesh and all
I
that
mean,
kind
it
of stuff.
does add a very nice touch to the edge of your property to have all those trees
It's
there.
not for the edge of the property. It's just sustaining the open space.
Yeah.
There had been trees back there that were part of our area, but they were close enough to because of the fire department, not wanting them to be that close. So a few of those came out, wanted to replace trees. So they're pines rather than shrubs.
Or scrub.
But we're not trying to take on open space. Open space is important to us. It's important.
Yeah, okay.
Where we do.
So the request, hey, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. So do you want to clarify what the request is for me?
Let me just explain a little bit more. So essentially what they've done is they've violated the city code because they've
Right.
improved open space without getting permission first, right?
Right.
Now, we have allowed improvements to open space before, similar to what they've done here, when they've gotten permission to do so.
What were the reasons? What were the reasons for doing it before? I mean, I'm feeling kind of guilty about,
Yeah, so actually, maybe I'll pull up a map
You know what I
and just
mean?
kind of show
Seriously.
you.
Well, I think the proposal from a couple of months ago is a little bit different.
yeah.
This is, yeah, not the sagebrush.
Didn't want sagebrush, he wanted to remove it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the same as like if they just reseeded grass, you know what I mean? Versus pine trees and shade trees and stuff. I mean, it's nicer, but
Where is that property?
Well, that's
He
what
didn't-
Austin said that they would do that though, right?
yeah,
Improve it in the same way.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know we've done that. I remember approving, someone came and requested, could I just plant 2 or 3 trees and we'll start a dripper system? And I remember
So
that we
this
approved that
is one
occasionally before.
We had a few years ago. This is
Yeah.
on Ridge Drive.
Right.
So there's a trail that goes in between these two properties,
Mhm.
comes back. And so this, I can't remember which house it was one of these houses, but essentially they wanted permission to be able to put some trees in back there, kind of like that.
Yep.
And so we told them, they ended up getting approved by the city council to do that. The condition was they had to kind of stagger the trees, so they couldn't just line them up in a straight line, but to kind
Right.
of stagger them
the
around
edge
to
of
kind of
your
make it look
property.
more natural.
Yeah,
And the other condition was that it had to be on a drip irrigation system. They couldn't extend their sprinkler system out there. And so it was approved on those conditions.
Mhm.
Looking at this aerial, I'm wondering if they ever ended up actually going forward with it, because
Or
I
if
don't
they lived.
see,
Yeah.
I don't see any trees here.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's further south, maybe I'm
Maybe it's
mistaken.
those 3
It might be
trees
these
right
3
there.
trees right here. And so I don't remember why they wanted these trees. It might have been a privacy thing because of the trail. But honestly,
Or
I
the
can't
slope,
remember.
I can't remember.
I'd have to
either.
go back
It's
and
been
review.
quite a while.
the minutes. It's been a few years, so,
Yeah.
but this is a specific example where someone was granted permission to plant
Yeah.
and improve
I
open
mean,
space.
this is hard because it's already done. I think the difference here is you've got some random trees on a hillside versus a line of trees along somebody's property line. You know what I mean?
They're not,
Pretty,
they're not a straight line.
sure.
Look really nice.
So if we go, we'll just go down to their property on the aerial here and. see.
I mean, it's done anyway. What would you do if you didn't approve it? Have
So I
them
mean,
tear them out?
Yeah, I mean,
There's nothing.
your options are recommend and approve it. You could ask that they tear them out. I mean, it doesn't seem
I mean,
like
that-
that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, but that
Seems
is a
silly, but
possibility,
what,
right?
what did it
So-
look like before that? So this is before the
This is
ground is
before.
disturbed
Yes, that's before right there.
and there's
So this
nothing there.
picture, I'm not sure when this was taken.
But you can see that the open
2021.
space is not disturbed here.
You can see,
No,
I mean, there's stuff here in
It's
the open
disturbing.
space.
There's like rocks and stuff already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
so
Okay, I guess what
their
is disturbed, I guess.
contractor did go in, disturb the open space. You know, they made an effort to restore that. They've reseeded it. They did plant those trees. So at this point, I mean, our decision is
Okay,
keep it the way it is and approve it. Option two, modify what they've done, maybe move
That'd
one
be
or two
silly.
trees. Or option three, make them rip it all out. Those are your options.
You have sample motions?
yeah. Those are,
Throw 'em up. Let's-
Let's see what
Yeah,
we
we got a
have.
sample motion.
We do.
I'm not on my
I'll
phone.
make one. Are we ready for that or?
I don't think there's anything else to discuss. It's, they're there. It's either, like you said, do you want them to modify it? Do you want to take them out or do you want to approve it?
You're still in trouble.
That was part of my motion. We give him 10 whacks on the, no,
Oh, great. Now we're excising penalties.
10 lashes with a ruler.
It's a good thing you're not here, Jeff.
So I'll make a motion. I will, I move, let's see, make sure I get the right one. I move to recommend that the open space improvement request be approved as proposed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Troy Slade. We have a second by Alan McDonald. Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next item. What do we have left?
Thanks for your service, Phoebe. You were here for many years, so thank you for your service. It's been a while ago. While he held down the home front. And planted trees illegal.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
What are you
too.
gonna say?
Okay, what's the last thing? Okay, so the last thing on the agenda is a public hearing for moderate income housing element.
So the moderate income housing element, this is something that is part of our general plan, something that we adopted with our general plan when we adopted that at the end of last year. The state legislature likes to make a habit of changing the requirements for the moderate income housing plan just about every year. So this year, they have decided to change so let me just back up. They require that we select 3 different menu items that we are going to include in our moderate income housing element. Well, this year they decided to redefine all of those, either combine some together or add extra requirements onto existing menu items. And they even created some new ones. And so the ones that we have adopted are these E, K, and X that you see here. And what they've modified is, I'll scroll down here, it's that language in the red. And so the first one really doesn't change much. Item E, it's still item E. And they just add the language internal or detached accessory dwelling units. So anyways, going down, item L is now item K is, or let's see, I'm getting this mixed up. Item K is now item L. And they've changed the language to read, preserving existing and new moderate income housing and subsidized units by utilizing a landlord incentive program, providing for deed restricted units through a grant program, or establishing a housing loss mitigation fund. So as you can see there, the previous language was just that language that's in the black. They've now added all these requirements that we either have to have a deed restriction program, we have to have a landlord incentive program, or we have to have a house loss mitigation fund.
When does this have to be done by?
So great question. We have to adopt this by October 1st.
Okay, can we table this and bring it back to another meeting? Since it's 20 to 10 and
20 till
I would like to
11.
give it more attention than
20
that.
to 11 and
Quarter till midnight?
Sorry, would that be all right?
I mean, that's up to you as the planning commission.
I would like to do that. Let's bring this back at our next. Is that okay with everyone else?
We need a formal.
Do we need a
motion to
formal
that.
motion?
We
Okay.
do need a motion.
Motion to table further discussion on
Low end or moderate.
moderate income housing proposals.
Okay, motion by Alan McDonald,
Second
second
it.
by Suze and Jeff and 3 other people. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, communication.
I'm leaving. This is my last day now. City action.
Oh, Austin,
It
we
really is.
will miss you. Have they started to hire anyone yet, or is Jed gonna have to do double duty now?
Well, we have Jed and Heidi that are gonna.
Jed and
be,
Heidi are gonna be, I
running
wondered
the
why
show for
Heidi
me.
tortured herself sitting here all night. I'm sorry, Heidi.
How do you feel about the position, Jane?
No, I have a job. I have a full-time job already. I don't know anything about being.
So it's been a
city planner.
pleasure getting to know all of you. I thank you all for your service on the planning commission. You all been great. You're great to work with, and it's fun hearing your comments and stuff as we go through some of these items on our agendas.
Free entertainment.
Who will join me just a brief little round of.
Yeah. You're here, you're here. I
Service,
know,
we
we
just
would've
honestly
brought a
done,
cake.
we didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's just would have brought treats.
Cake or.
Oh, goodbye,
beer
sir.
Or at
Yeah.
this- or at a quarter to 10, who knows what we should be eating right now?
Where are you off to, Austin?
I'm going to Saratoga Springs.
Saratoga Springs.
Yeah.
Is that a longer commute or a shorter commute for you?
It's it's probably gonna be about the same. I don't know. I haven't actually driven it.
Splitting
in
hairs, huh?
rush hour traffic, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Two different projects.
That's right. Well, that'll be fun because there's gonna be a lot of planning to do, probably
Yeah.
more planning there
They're
than there
growing.
is here.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on over there.
Yeah.
right
Do
now,
they
so-
work 410s?
They work 410s, really?
Yes, they.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder.
Probably
All right,
spend
we
too
need
much
someone
time
to
talking about
approve the
something.
minute.
What's the deal with our budget? Can't we outbid Saratoga? Springs?
Apparently
Yeah.
not.
Let's go.
I don't know. Talk to Shane. All right, let's get the minutes approved.
Minutes from.
Other
Friday.
communications real quick.
Oh, one more.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we need to add a public notification requirement to setback changes.
Yeah, it sounds like we need to.
Yeah.
Let's put that on the next agenda item. It really does affect the lots
That's
next
pretty
to it.
messy.
It's like
Yeah.
the fair request. Would have
Yeah.
saved us some of their pain. I feel bad for that
I
situation, but
know,
That
that,
was right answer. That was terrible. There wasn't anything.
no, there wasn't. But in the end, I think you have to go with what is recorded, what the
Yeah.
ordinance say. There has to be a compelling reason. If they had come in agreement and said, we agree to this, it would have been one thing. But if they don't agree, you have to go with what's on the books, I think.
Was good cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I recall
It
from the
was-
prior meeting, so.
Yeah. Yeah,
I did.
it shouldn't have been approved if it wasn't buildable.
But you
Okay,
really can't.
well, I can see we're about to lose Jeff.
Oh, my-
Okay, anything else? Yeah, he's,
Faces and itching.
My
Oh,
Jeff.
okay. Any other communication?
Yeah, there was one quick question. We don't need to debate it, but I just wanted clarification because I remember a couple of months ago this came up, but the Alpine fitness signs that have been up all summer,
Mm-hmm.
what's the deal?
Well, they're supposed to have turns and they can have them up for 2 weeks at a time for special events. And then they have to come down or rotate to another person.
Yeah, and they
And
haven't
so if they're
come down
not
all
coming
summer.
down at all summer,
No.
then we need to send the code enforcement officer out. So
Yeah.
do you guys want to send the code enforcement over to
I
visit
think what's
with them?
happening is, Alpine Fitness has, they like to post things on weekends when there's no staff
Mhm.
here
Yeah.
to notice it, so.
Those signs have not moved all summer.
Okay.
I'm not
Let's send
sure
someone over to talk
which
to
sign,
them.
are you talking about the ones on the trailers?
No, the ones
No.
on the front, those vinyl signs he has
Oh,
on the
In the
front.
parking.
And
area.
the,
Yeah, that's in front of the parking area.
I think Heidi's code enforcement.
Yeah, just send them over and have him penalize him for no signs for the rest of the summer. Also, when is he gonna fill in the hole?
Yeah, and what's the update on the
What's the
whole?
status on the hole getting filled in since? Or now that we have a developer, is he gonna be able to piggyback off of them? He's attempting to move forward?
yeah.
So we're gonna
He's been
get
into
him-
City Hall trying to find a way to move his project forward, so.
All right,
Okay, sorry about.
that's
sorry about
okay.
that.
No, that's a problem that we've all talked about many times. Maybe we'll come in for a sign exception next. That doesn't go on the books. We're on YouTube still. Okay, let's do the minutes, please.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes from, what is it, July,
No, it was.
June
It was
21st.
June
June
21st.
21st.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeff Davis, a second.
I'll second that.
Second by Ethan Allen. Any comments, corrections? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
Doesn't John usually do those?
That's
Yeah.
fine.
I think he
I
fell
got it.
asleep.
Here it comes. You ready? I motion to adjourn.
A motion to
Second it.
adjourn by John, seconded by Alan, Jeff, and 3 other people. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.